Oh, there we go. There we go. All right. Good evening. Welcome once again, everybody, on this beautiful Friday night. It is June 3rd, if you guys can believe that. We already are hitting in June. And I gotta tell you, I've been having an interesting day, having an interesting last 24 hours. And I can't help it. I gotta have my popcorn. I mean, watching what's been going on over the last 24 hours. I told you guys, I told all y'all that this election was going to be lit. This election was going to be fire. And I have no doubt in my mind that going forward over these next few months, it's going to be even more so. So we got a lot of things to cover here. We got folks that might be joining in here in the chat as guests. I'm going to send out some links right now, see if anybody's going to be interested in that. I know I talked to a few people that were potentially interested. So, let's see if they want to come on in. Them things out there. And if you, the listening audience, I'm trying to listen here. Anywho, and if you guys, the listening audience, want to be a part of the show here, you can also get on board here. I can get up to 5 other people joining in here in the discussion. So if you want to come on board, you are more than welcome to do so. Let me find one more person that I know occasionally likes to jump on in. And we're going to send those links out here like that. Boom. There it is. So, what do we cover first? I mean, there's just so much to get into. Bear with me here as we're starting this up. As you guys know, over the past few months, we've been doing the Wisconsin Conservative Conversations here. We've had various guests on. We will be kicking that back up here next week. I got Nathan Michaels, I believe that'll be coming on board. He's running for an assembly seat here in the Wapaka area. I've also got, let's find the calendar. Calendar is always nice to look at. Jay Schrader on Wednesday night, so we'll be having him on board as well. Once again, welcoming back. We're looking to having Adam Steen back on as well. He told me, he wanted to come back on and definitely want to hear what he's got to say, how his campaign's going. So we'll definitely, if you want to come on, we're always welcoming folks on. Always welcoming you folks on. I like to have these conversations and get that information out to the people. But as I take a look at the calendar right now, I know I got a gentleman I'll be working with. And I forget which organization was, but yeah, we're gonna be working with him. Let's go into next week. On the 10th, I know we have the 9th, Paul Burning. Paul Burning is up there in the northern part of Wisconsin. And then, of course, the following week, we have some openings. So yeah, we're going to be working on all this stuff here, getting more guests lined up, getting more folks. And if you guys know anybody who's running, anybody who's currently in office, anybody who's a conservative influencer, business, anything like that, let's get them on board. Let's get them to be a part of this conversation. But let's take a look at what we've got here. Yeah, I'm going to be lunching on the popcorn all night. That's how I'm going to get down. But anyway, let's see. Oh, we don't want that. Yeah, Facebook's going to end up taking that off. Anyhow, well, maybe not. Maybe not. Big news yesterday. Former President Trump made an endorsement yesterday. That was kind of an interesting thing for him to do. And apparently, according to President Trump, he's picked Tim Michels as his horse in his gubernatorial race. And let me pick this up here. Now I want to read this here. We're going to put it back. We're going to put it up on the screen as soon as we get it. Let's see. NBC News. We got Yahoo. Yahoo. All right. Fine. We'll go to DonaldTrump.com. Donald J. Trump. So let's pull this up here. So here's this is such an interesting turn of events because if you've been paying attention to what's been going on here the last year or so, you know there's a group of folks that are out there right now that were gambling on getting the Trump endorsement. And I think it was a huge gamble and honestly, a huge political misstep to assume that Trump was going to be endorsing them. And it was interesting because they had nothing but flattering and good, kind things to say. And don't you dare question the God King himself, right? And I call Trump the God King because I think there are people out there that actually act like if he is the very thing, a God King. And these individuals, I find them fascinating because according to them, Trump can do no wrong. According to them, if Trump says jump, they say how high. And I think it's a bit ridiculous because, well, if you look at these things with a discerning eye, and you should look at it with a discerning eye, you would know that for as many good things that Trump has done, there were a number of things that were huge missteps. Like one of the most recent ones that he did prior to November of 2020 was when he started calling for reform on Section 220. Is that Section 220? Do I got that wrong? Don't I? Section 230, I think it is. Let me make sure I got that right too. We always like to check our sources here. Section 230 reform, and that's protections that internet providers get with regards to, are you a publisher or are you a platform? Which one is it? So in here, in that particular thing, all of a sudden he's bringing it up when he had the opportunity to do it over the last 4 years. Huge misstep. Hire Michael Bolton. Huge misstep. A number of things, people that he surrounded himself with, and you can criticize or praise it however you want, spin it however you want. But Trump's not infallible. As a matter of fact, one of his greatest weaknesses is perhaps one of his greatest strengths, the fact that he fought everybody. And I think it became more of a liability as time went on. But let's go to forward here to this election cycle, and he's been endorsing people left and right, and many of his candidates have been winning. Some of them not so much. And here it's the latest one that apparently just dropped yesterday. And it was kind of funny because I decided to sit down. My son has last day of school. We ended up hanging out, watching a movie, and I missed all this good news as it was developing. But anyway, this came here yesterday. DonaldJTrump.com news. Tim Michels is a very successful businessman running for governor in the great state of Wisconsin. During my administration, Tim served on the infrastructure task force and helped us plan and start building the Keystone XL pipeline before Joe Biden launches assault on American energy production. The current governor, Tony Evers, has been an abject failure for the people of Wisconsin, from his abysmal handling of the China virus, whereas lockdowns were unprecedented to rampant crime across the state. Wisconsin needs a governor who will stop inflation, uphold the rule of law, strengthen our borders. We had the strongest borders in history just 2 years ago. Now we have the weakest, and end the well-documented fraud in our elections. Tim Michels is the best candidate to deliver meaningful solutions to these problems. He will produce jobs like no one can ever imagine. Tim is an American first conservative who supports our Second Amendment, honors our brave law enforcement and first responders, and stands strong against the woke mob trying to destroy our country. Tim Michels has my complete and total endorsement. If Wisconsin has the wisdom to make Tim their next governor, it will have unprecedented success. This from former President Donald Trump. Now, obviously, I would love to hear what you guys think on this because, well, like I said, Trump's not infallible. And I think it was comical to me because the very same people that were sucking off the teeth of Trump over the last year were going apoplectic last night and even today. I mean, people were saying that he's getting it wrong, that he should be staying out of Wisconsin state politics, and just carrying on about how they're going to support this candidate or that candidate no matter what. And what made it even more comical to me was the same people that were begging about no endorsement at the Republican Party of Wisconsin, convention, were the same people that are gaming for the Trump endorsement. Now, I think it's funny because somebody said, "Well, it's not the party's business to be given endorsements." And I'm like, "What? Says who? You? You're not even part of the party. Like seriously." I just think it's funny because organizations give it to their endorsement all the time. If RBW wants to endorse somebody through the membership that elect that person to be endorsed, that's what they're doing. Of course, that does open a whole other can of worms as it relates to the primary, moving it up, all that other stuff, and that's definitely a discussion that needs to be had. Hell, that's a discussion that's been needed for I don't know, several years now. But that being said, though, I find it funny how the winds have changed for certain people. How all of a sudden this is like Trump needs to stay out of Wisconsin politics. While I don't disagree with that statement, I find it funny coming from the people that were counting on Trump endorsing their horse. It is comical to me. Well, it's this endorsement actually makes things very interesting because now I think we are by default unofficially we now have a two candidate race now. And clearly the two front runners are Michaels and Clayfish. Now I know saying that's going to upset some of you, but I ask you, look at this with a reasonable eye, if that is possible. I ask you to check it out, see what you think. And of course, hey, if you don't think that that's not on, you think it's not on point, hey, fine, whatever. Keep backing your guy. I mean, we're already toward the primary at this point, so what difference does it make, right? Now, I think the bigger question is how much does this split the vote? And I've seen several people say that this is going to pull from Rebecca's camp. I don't think so. If you've been paying attention to this, one of the things that you find, and I think this is another interesting part. The people that are supportive of Clayfish are very adamant, very coherent in what it is that they believe about her. That I don't think there's anybody that's going to sway them until this primary. I think the vast majority of them are committed to backing whoever the primary winner is going to be, regardless of who it is. You know, um, I think really personally, as I look at this, I see a three-way fractured tie here, and then I see one person way back, way back. And that person that way back is going to be Adam Fisher. Love the guy, friend of mine, but I just don't see a path forward for him. And I think what we're seeing right now is between the three that are out there, and prior to this endorsement, you had Nicholson, Michaels, and Rantham, and each of them had their own camps. Each of them had their own counties that were kind of pulling more for them than anybody else. And I think even now, you're still going to see the picking apart of each other versus pulling anything from Clayfish. I would love to see what the next polling is going to be like. You know, so let's take a look here in the chat room. Looks like we got comments here already. Let's see what Brock's got here. He said, I feel that this endorsement was the best thing from Rantham. It severely hurts Rebecca's campaign. Now, you'd be wrong about that one. And there is no way Michaels will get enough votes from Wisconsinites because he was not doing anything for us in the past 2 years. Rantham has done more, in my opinion, and has the best path toward winning the primary. You're not wrong about a lot of that there. And I think with Michaels, he's definitely got the uphill battle to deal with a part-time person, living here in the state. He lives here 183 days for tax purposes. Yeah, if I was, splitting it between Connecticut, I'd do the same thing too. But I also think that he's got enough money. And my understanding is he's spending upwards of $1 million a week. Got an ad campaign all over the place, mailers for days. And I've made no secret about this. I don't watch television. I may watch a movie here and there, but for the most part, if I'm watching anything, it's either stupid on YouTube or something to educate myself on YouTube. I don't watch, you know, terrestrial cable, satellite TV at all. But not Rantham, excuse me, Michaels, I think what he's starting to do, and from what I'm hearing from some of the discussions he's had with talk radio people today, he's just assuming he's won this. And not only is he assuming he's won this, he's taking it a step further, and he's now going out to the politically uninitiated, the people that really don't care about party politics, the people that just might traditionally vote Republican, or those disaffected Democrats that are just tired of all the nonsense. He's going for them. And those are the people that need to be won over at this point. At this point, it ain't a matter. And I think everybody that is in party circles, patriot group circles, whatever you want to call yourself, circles that are politically initiated, they pretty much have an idea, if not have already solidified who their horse is in this race. So at this point, these candidates need to start going for where the big numbers are at, and that is the individual. Okay. I think Trump has the wrong pick. And I do agree with you on that. I agree with you on that in a sense. Let me just write something real quick here. I agree with you on that in the sense that I've been of the belief for some time that Trump shouldn't have commented at all. I don't think that Trump is his endorsement is going to carry the weight that a lot of people were thinking that it was going to carry. And I know, once again, I understand it's kind of sacrilegious to some people, but I think, he spent all his time in Florida, which, nothing wrong with that. He definitely has a lot more pull there. He has a lot more pull in the neighboring states. But I think as you start going out more, I think that sway is definitely going to be reduced significantly. Here, I'll give you an example. Let's see if we can pull this one up here. Share screen. Let's do this one again. Marquette University Law Poll. Now, mind you, I'm always cautious about polls. And the reason I'm cautious about polls is because, for the most part, when you take a look at polls, it is simply a snapshot in time. That's all it is, a snapshot. And things can change radically in the next day, week, whatever. But if we look at this poll and we take it for what it is, and let's take a look here at just the headline. And it looks like we got people in the back room, so we'll get them on here in a moment. But according to the Marquette Law School poll, national survey shows that 40% rate of abortion. So it talks about that. It also talks about here's the sub headline. Republicans are more enthusiastic about voting, and about half of Republicans say they are more likely to support a candidate Trump has endorsed, though 40% say it makes no difference. So let's break down that number a little bit. And let me get to that. We have to look for a Trump endorsement. Got favorability polls. Okay, here. Trump endorsements. Trump has endorsed candidates in several state primaries across the country. Amongst Republicans, 49% say they are more likely to support a candidate whom Trump has endorsed. Although almost as many, 40%, say his endorsement would make no difference in their vote. Another 11% say that they would be less likely to vote for a Trump-backed candidate. Almost half of independents, 45%, say a Trump endorsement would make no difference to them, and 41% say it would make them less likely to vote for a candidate, with just 12% saying that they would more likely almost all Democrats, 87%, are less likely to support a candidate Trump endorses. And we see that in, oh, not that poll. Table 17 right here. And let's see if we can get that into the chat room. We'll put that up there for you guys to, like I said, digest it, figure it out, think it through. Let me know what you think. In the chat room right now, right in the green room, knocking up. Wait, why do we got this here? Wait a minute and try again. Oh, there it is. There it is. Beautiful. In the back room here, we're going to bring the brother on. We got Orlando Owens. What's going on, my friend? How are you, sir?
Man, I'm good. I'm back here in y'all green room. Y'all got some good food back here, man. Can you hear me? Delgado, can you hear me? Uh-oh. Did Delgado lose me? Delgado. I in the wrong. What did I do?
And I'm knocking myself out there for a moment.
Okay.
Man.
I said, y'all food in the back, banging back here in the green room, brother. Y'all got some good food back here.
I did some grilling earlier tonight. And
okay.
As you guys know, I've got, plenty of popcorn because it's a hot mess. My executive producer, Tor over here, he's checking out. Hey, brother. Yeah, here. There you go. He's enjoying the show too. So,
man.
So yeah, we got the popcorn, we got the grape Kool-Aid, and it's playing some politics. So yeah, we're rocking a little bit of rye whiskey here.
I got to play the food back here. Y'all did me right. I see here.
Yeah, that's how we got to get down these days.
There you go.
You got to get your food in now before inflation just goes off the hook. And we'll talk about that here later tonight.
How you been, man?
I can't complain. I can't. The past 2 weeks it's been wonderful. It's been an emotional roller coaster between convention, meeting a lot of people, getting ready for the holiday with Memorial Day kicking off the tourist season up here. It's been wonderful. Cannot complain.
Hey, they ain't gonna change nothing, no way.
So we might get someone else on here too. And also, if anyone else wants to join in here in the conversation, please feel free to do so. We will make this a roundtable discussion because, well, that's how we get down.
Friday night pints and politics.
Yes, sir. It's probably one of the few times that any of us can actually cool off, chill for a moment. You remember when Friday night was all about going out, getting lit, just having a grand old time?
I do.
Man, we've gotten old.
We have. So what you talking about right now, my friend?
Well, we got the endorsement business going on here, and I was going through some of the chats. Obviously, there are some people that are not cool about the fact that Tim Michaels got the Trump endorsement.
I hear.
It's going to be interesting because I have to wonder, does people's biases, does it skew their opinions on who this is going to be hurting more right now?
I think yes. Yes. I think you put a spin on it as best you can for your candidate. You do.
Right.
But I guess there's some who are just going to give the analysis. And hey, God bless him. God bless you even if he's spinning for your candidate.
Oh, yeah. But I think people got to look at this with some pragmatism too. Who can realistically win? And I'm trying to think, why exactly would Trump pick Michaels out of anybody? Now, I've not met Tim Michaels. I look forward to meeting him. I look forward to talking with him. But one of the things that rubs me wrong, other than the whole residency question, Tor, no, you don't need to be there. You need to be at the switchboard, dude. Come on. I had to talk to the dog here, but
Well, he's an executive producer,
well,
so
he is, and without him, the show's not possible. But um, one of the other things I'm not too keen on is, I hate Johnny come latelys. I absolutely hate them.
sure.
And when somebody comes in and you came in the last month, and then all of a sudden it's like, here, I'm here. No, where were you like during all the Lincoln Day dinners, all the fairs, all the Patriot Group movements, and all that stuff? Because one of the things you can say for the five candidates that are currently in here, and by the way, I think it's another thing that's kind of where the mainstream media, you just don't want to pay attention to them anymore because they're like, well, four candidates. No, Slappy, there's five. But you take a look at all the hard work that they have all done, it's kind of like a big FU to them.
Yeah, I mean, the Johnny Come Lately, I guess title was a tough one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, I can't really speak why, you know, everybody has their own decision making process and their
Yeah.
time frame. And I think the state party put some guidelines out. Um, they put some guidelines out, and I guess he met the guidelines. And so, I mean, I have an opponent that got in late as well,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't meet the requirements. So I don't know, man. I disagree with Brother Brock on his other post. I hadn't read this one yet, though. By the
This
way,
is an interesting one.
what
It
is
says,
it?
by the way, I think all endorsements should be banned in all politics.
Oh,
Stop buying candidates. Start getting back to what our forefathers meant by meant our elections to be.
oh,
Elections are for people, not corporations.
well,
But we also have to be very cognizant of this. Corporations are entities treated no different than a person.
America United, I believe.
Hmm. So we have somebody else here in the green room, and we don't want to keep her waiting here too long because she might beat me up like last time when I kind of was like getting all, you know, not talking to her. I was
Somebody
mean.
said they making beer and ribs tomorrow. Okay,
Ribs?
beer and ribs.
Oh
Hearing
snap!
from you, Orlando. So I'm like, hey, oh, that's Stephanie. I know who that
Hi.
is.
I got my glasses on because I was
Yeah.
like kind of thinking about getting ready for bed.
Okay, well, we just want some late night, pints and politicking for the
Sure.
grown people. For the grown people, only the grown people.
Right.
I don't know. Brother Mo East Doug.
Yep.
I don't know, man. Dude talks about only for the grown folks, and then it's like, man, y'all get lit. I mean, like seriously. I mean, you want to talk about a conversation that's raw?
Brother Mo.
Oh,
Listen to
brother.
Brother Mo conversation. You better bring your adult ears.
Oh, when Mo, when you get,
I'm not
and the thing is
familiar.
with Mo, you have a conversation with Mo. It doesn't matter if it's 7 a.m. lunchtime. Doesn't matter if it's 9 o'clock at night.
It's still lit.
It's raw. I mean, just dude's a
Interesting.
trip. He's got good points, but yeah,
Hey,
there is that.
You got to be ready for it.
So, yeah. So what we're doing right now, we're talking obviously about this endorsement that dropped yesterday, kind of giving some breakdown, and we were getting Orlando's take on some things here, trying to get me to shut up as I'm eating popcorn.
Hey man,
Are you eating popcorn right now, Orlando?
I'm eating now. So Ed has some real good food in the back room, in the green room. I don't think they brought you none out, Stephanie, but they brought me out some chicken. They brought me out some chicken and some Chinese rice.
Oh,
and
that's
a nice
that's
beverage.
the way to do it.
We pints and politicking for real, because y'all might see me duck off and go get me some seconds over in the plate over there. So,
man, I don't have anything good like that. There's
You
some
better-
pizza in the kitchen.
Ed
But
calls pints and politics. You better bring your plate and bring your cup, because it's gonna be one of those type events. He throws the best parties.
I try my best. I
He
really
treats
do.
right. You better go.
I
You
try.
better come ready with your plate and your fork and your cup, because he's gonna be good.
Well, and you got to have your A game. You got to have
Sounds
your A
good.
game too.
Then you
but-
got
Gotta
Tor
have
walking
your
around there. His executive producer. Anything that fall on the floor, it's done.
Hey, the brother owns it, right?
It's done.
Well, yeah,
So
bro. He's out here somewhere.
yeah,
Um,
this endorsement, man, you know, I don't know if it hurt anyone. Shout out to Tim Michaels for getting the very coveted Donald Trump endorsement.
oh
Um,
yeah, no doubt.
I don't know if it hurt anyone. What I would say is this: I know that the Raffman campaign really, really worked hard for it. They
Hmm.
really went after it. They really, I guess, have been meeting with Trump campaign and have a lot of conversations. They really went after it, and I guess I wouldn't say anybody is a loser. I guess they're just not. Um, it's just not. It's unfortunate that they came up a little short in the vetting process for whatever the way President Trump did it. But I can tell
Hmm.
you they worked hard, and hats off to the Raffin campaign. I can only say, your contingency plan was one or the other. If we got it, we're going to go this pathway. If we didn't, we're still rolling. So I don't necessarily agree with Brother Brock on the that did it. If it hurt Rebecca, I think her support is a lot. It's solid. It's probably more solid than some may think it is.
Hmm.
I think the Trump endorsement definitely played a role in that outsider lane conversation
Yeah.
um, between Rathman, Nicholson, and Tim and Michaels. Um, and then Ed, was bringing up some really good points of like, what is it? What does it come with? Like me, I'm the endorsed candidate for the state party and the RPW, and I thank everybody for their support and prayers.
Hmm.
Um, the questioning is like, what comes with that endorsement? And that's a really big prize that you can have. That it's to have that sitting on your mantle. To have the Trump endorsement is a really big thing. I am very appreciative of the endorsement from the state party. And again, I think I still have to go out and work. It's not going to change.
Right.
I still have an opponent. I got to go out and work. And so I don't know. I saw the initial blowback from a lot of people who maybe have been disappointed, and I just say to the Raffin campaign, keep your head up. To the volunteers, stay in there, stay engaged. This campaign, it's a bumpy ride, and there's going to be some peaks and there's going to be valleys. Keep your wits. The election wasn't yesterday.
No. Well, and I want to get Stephanie's take on this too before I chime in on anything. Stephanie, what obviously, I'm sure you've seen a lot of stuff on social media, interacted with
Sure.
people as well.
Yep.
What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I can't say I'm surprised because, I mean, Michaels is a business guy and Trump is a business guy, and it's kind of, I mean, to me, it's not surprising that Trump ended up coming out endorsing him. Although I know everybody was kind of, looking for the endorsement because it's a big deal. I don't know if it. I mean, some people seem to think that would end it. Like, oh, Trump's endorsement, that means it's over in a sense. But I don't
Right.
necessarily know if that's true because I do see I mean, I saw plenty of conversations among different supporters of different candidates that they are still very much supporting their candidates. Some people think Trump made a mistake. I mean, again, it's not surprising to me. I kind of almost expected him to give the endorsement if he was going to choose between any of them at all, that it would go to him.
Yeah.
And I read his statement on it, Trump's statement on it, and he mentioned something about how he had worked with the administration with building the Keystone or something with the Keystone pipeline.
Yeah, with the infrastructure plan for the Keystone XL pipeline, and there was another task force he was attached to as well.
Right. So I can't say after reading that I go, well, that makes sense. So yeah, I mean, people. I'm not saying I think it is a big deal. Obviously, everybody wanted it, but also I don't think it's like a for sure thing.
Mm-hmm.
Now that Trump came out with that, so I think that I saw you comment on Scarlett Johnson's post. I
Yes.
think right. So I was
Yep.
commenting on there too, back and forth, and so there was discussion about all of it. And what I'm really trying to encourage, I would say, don't because it's hard. Politics can be hard, you know. You get knocked
Oh,
down,
it's a
or you
blood
get,
sport for sure.
yeah. I mean, you just have to roll with the punches. So, um, you know, you have to just take the positive, you know, take a positive perspective and say, okay, well, like you said, or was it you or Orlando said, okay, we're going to go this route or whatever.
Orlando, yeah.
And so they're all going to duke it out still. What I did make a point to someone on that thread was, hey, let's vet every candidate and ask questions of them. But my hope is that we don't um, get bitter and angry in the process to the point of we've talked about this many times, but just where we're going to take our ball and go home. You know, whoever wins it in the end, we have to make sure not to paint such an ugly picture of whatever candidate we're fighting against that it's going to make it hard for, you know, certain supporters to get on board with whoever ends up winning. So
I think we're far past that, though. I mean, there were people online last night talking about, well, I'm just going to vote for Evers.
Oh gosh. Well,
wow.
Okay, we can't do that. We can't do that.
Wow.
Well, and there's people I think that they'll vote for whoever it is, but then you have to be able to make the case. Like, you can't just trash someone to the point where, well, I'll vote for them, but then you're not willing to like get other people to vote for them. You know, you're going to go show up and do your thing privately, you know, and vote for them, but quietly, and you're not going to like push for that person. So I know it's hard.
And I saw that too. And I saw several people post that, you know, something to that effect that, yeah, I'll vote for them, but I'm not going to go out and campaign for them. And, you know, like here, I'll use Tim Rantham because he's not my guy by a long shot. I don't think he would necessarily be a very good governor. And this is me measuring it by the metrics of the other candidates that are in the race right now. However, he would be light years better than Tony Evers. And even though I said what I just said right now, I'm not bashing him. I'm just simply using the metric of him versus the other candidates. And I'm not saying anything to the fact like, oh my God, Tim's the most horrible person in the world. No, he's not.
Right.
I've met him and talked to him several times. Nice guy. You know?
Well, and you have to, like, again, I always try to bring it back to policy. And again, we can't guarantee that each candidate is going to do every single thing they say or promise. I mean, that's always,
or can, right?
Yeah, you don't know for sure, but you hope they do. But if you go by policies and what they're all, you know, proposing, a lot of it is very similar. There's maybe just some degrees of difference, you know, on some issues, but overall, you know, I will support someone who supports the policies overall that I support. So I have no problem, you know, even if I'm not a fan of them, like if, you know, maybe I have a bad, you know, feeling about like how things went with the primary. I go, well, that person was kind of like unfairly attacking so-and-so. Well, I got to find a way to get over that and just say, hey, this is about policy. It's all about policy and what they're going to implement, because you either have far left or you have conservative, relatively conservative, one way or the other. It's going to be much more conservative than what Tony Evers and Josh Cowell and whoever else on the Democrat side. So that's what we have to really.
You mentioned Josh Cowell, and that's why I think, you know, the Attorney General's race is, you know, in this year, this cycle is just as important, if not more important, than the governor's race. I think a case can be made for sure that it is just as important, but I do think there's a strong case that it's more important than the governor's race. But let's go back to the Tim Michaels thing for 1 second here, the endorsement. One of the things that I've noticed this cycle, we got to get the pup in. That's what we're talking about. This cycle has been moving extremely fast. You know, go from one topic to the next, one hot button issue to another. Right now, obviously, the endorsement, but there's also the gun issue on the table, which we'll talk about here too. But I'm looking at this endorsement here, June 2nd, 2022, and I'm thinking to myself, if he wanted the most impact making the announcement for an endorsement, I'm like, this is like the worst time to do it. Wouldn't it have made more sense to launch an endorsement like that? I don't know, middle of July, to get the most impact as you get closer to the primary? What do you guys think?
Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm not always sure the best timing of it, but well, I was just talking with someone tonight on the phone saying we're like, it's like 10 weeks out actually. So in some ways it's actually kind of coming quick.
Oh, yeah.
But you know, I'm not a strategist, so I try to strategize, but
no. You're not a strategist, but we play one on the internet. That's what we're doing
we
here.
pretend to
So
be strategists.
exactly.
We try to strategize.
We give our opinion, and that and $10 to get you a bucket of coffee and a burger at McDonald's.
What are
pundits?
We're pundits.
We're political pundits. We're talking heads.
There you go. To get the Sunday shows, it's the Friday conservative.
Friday night, baby.
There you go. Friday night. This is what we're doing on Friday night.
Tia's talking about beer ribs. Oh, this is what you were talking about, wasn't it?
Yeah, she says she's making some beer tomorrow. Hey, I'll be doing a lot of dairy breakfasts, so I probably won't. I don't know. This can't. I'm trying to lose weight, man. I got to get back on my workouts because I was so fixated on the signatures that when I came home, I was so late, so tired. So I've been slacking for the last couple of weeks, and I can feel it. So I got to get back out here. Now we run into dairy breakfasts, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
And that's all carbs right there. It's like
right?
Powdered eggs, frozen sausage, and a ton of pancakes. Oh,
I'm not eating nothing. I'm just gonna greet people like that's bacon smoke. That pig smell good over there.
See, I'd be looking at them like, y'all got pancakes? Like, seriously, pancakes? Dr. Fauci's pancakes?
I'm hungry now.
I know. God, I wish we had an IHOP.
Hey, I'm sorry. I was eating before you came in there.
That was the
His backstage team did me right, so I didn't know you was coming. I would have left the light on, but I took all the food. So you got to talk to brother Thor about that because Thor, he's
he's kind of the gatekeeper to the food there.
Make sure you say, you got to take care of all the guests, Thor, not just Orlando.
Now, let's give a shout out real quick, too, to all the candidates, because obviously the first is come and gone. That's the day that everybody has signatures in. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're running for assembly, Senate, the top executive races. Everybody had to have their papers in, signatures in. And it was kind of cool as I was watching it throughout the day. And I'm watching everybody just their 6,700 signatures. That's what Clayfish turned in. Ron Johnson, 30,000 plus what he turned in.
That was awesome.
That was ridiculously high. Orlando had his number. I know Tim's had his. They had a picture of him. He's rocking shorts and stuff, turning them all in. And it was cool to see because, in one sense, I think you can say, well, how hard is it to get 2,000 signatures? And I think you can make that argument. But think about that. You have to go talk to complete strangers, pitch a case, why I should give up my name, my address, telephone number, email. And you're going to send me more junk in the mail that I don't want to deal with. Okay, sign me up. And, I think we got to give a hat tip to all you guys out there that are putting in this work, all the volunteers, all the people that have been, part of these, every single campaign, because it's a lot of hard work. And you guys only have 45 days to do it.
Let me add this in there, too. Whatever you was going to say to try to convince someone to sign had to be less than like a minute and a half. That's all you had. That's all you had.
We got 10 seconds for a first impression.
Go for it, Slappy.
Well, the other thing is you have to, especially depending on the race, somebody can't sign for the same office twice for two different candidates. So you have to you're competing against other candidates especially if there's several of them, it spreads it out more. And so you got to find, you got to work even harder, I think. So anyways, I imagine it's a lot of work. So yeah, definitely congrats to everybody for getting their signatures. And Orlando, what did you end up with?
We submitted about 4,020 signatures, but we got credit for 3,914.
Okay, so that was still pretty close, at least. I mean, that was close to there was 100 difference.
Good
job, and we still the sad thing about it, we got more that came in the mail, so we had I probably got another 300 signatures sitting here.
Wow!
Oh my gosh! Wow! Little late, but
we really, man, shout out to all the volunteers, man. I was so nervous because I had a problem with my PO box. In fact, I just got another text from someone today and said, "Hey, Orlando, this came back to my house again." And
Still having that issue.
so so we had a problem with our PO box, just making sure it was online. And you know, I gotta say to you, man, your chat room is popping. You got Brian Chimney
Oh,
in your
Brian's up in
chat.
here. Wait, oh snap! What's going on, Brian? How are you, sir? I know.
OG.
Yep. Oh yes, sir. Yes,
One
sir.
of the Godfathers. Him,
I
Gerard
love
Randall.
him. I love Brian because like every time I've ran into him, I remember the first time I met him. I met him down in Chicken Burn a couple years ago, and at this point, believe it or not, I can be shy once in a while, and
no.
I'm like, I'm not gonna go up on him. I mean, I'm just gonna I'm just gonna lean back in the cut over here, do my thing, whatever. And he actually came up to me, shook my hand, we started talking, just a few minutes, but it was like, oh no, that's cool. Oh, cool, awesome. And every time, we ran into each other, we've had a few minute conversation and found out he's got some ties to one of the local areas near me, about 20 minutes away or so. And, it was just, and I said this before, I think a lot of people tend to get a little starstruck, which is why I think, people don't necessarily go up and speak to their representatives or senators or any of these pundits or anything. And, to see people actually making time to have a conversation with you, I think it's the coolest thing in the world. So a lot of respect to Brian.
Very cool. He polished off the carryout box of how do you say that?
Infusios, meatballs.
Okay.
Italian
I'm not
sausage in the
familiar.
car on the drive back.
That's the way to do it.
I've heard of Infusios, and I've heard that food is actually pretty good. So,
well, when I get down to Racine a few times a year because of my family down there, so I'll have to remember that next time I'm down there. Did you guys hear about the shooting in Racine at a funeral?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, man.
And let's get to that here. And before we get to that, I just want to say just this one thing here, and just to go back and close out the endorsement thing. A lot of people were issuing statements about why they're going to keep going forward and doing whatever. And I think the one statement that kind of rubbed me the wrong way, and it has rubbed me the wrong way for quite some time, was the Kevin Nicholson statement. And I'll tell you why. Well, basically, he said, we got to leave it up to the people of Wisconsin, endorsement, whatever. But he's always been the political outsider. And I think what rubs me the wrong way about that, and I've talked with him, on several occasions about this, his definition of outsider is outsider to Madison. But I don't like that terminology because I find it to be deceptive. Because when you look at what is a political outsider, might be that person who's never run for office and has galvanized support and just hammering away at it. But I look at Kevin Nicholson and what he's done with No Better Friend, what he's done with his campaign, how he's been able to turn No Better Friend into a campaign apparatus, on the drop of a dime. And you look at him and you look at what he's done, and you come to find out when you think about it, he is the single most connected conservative in the state, bar none. I don't think there's a conservative who he doesn't have a number two. Like if he went to have a conversation with any conservative of prominence or rising up or whatever, he could have that conversation within 15 minutes of asking for it.
Well, and I think that with, because there's so much talk of insider, outsider over the past several years, sometimes it's not even clear what that means. I mean, does it mean that somebody that's never run for office before? Or does it mean that somebody's background is not political at all? Like, would I be considered an insider because I've been involved in politics since I've been involved in the party since 2012? So does that make me an insider?
You would be the politically elite since you attended the convention.
Well, I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess I could have that status. Yeah, I could take, I mean, that's the thing where you could spin it some, one way or the other, but I, is grassroots, because is grassroots establishment? Like, so if the grassroots supports somebody, like they're the politically engaged, does that mean they're establishment, or is it opposite? If the grassroots support someone, that means they're not establishment. I don't really know
It de-
sometimes what all these terms mean. So
it depends on how you define the word is.
the definition of
The definition of is that grassroots? Is it astroturf? Is that seasonal weeds? Is it dandelions? Do we know what we're talking? It's 2022. Nobody knows
it's
anything
the word,
anymore.
like the word rhino, which it could be relevant at times. I mean, I think you could call certain people, definitely you could use that term, but again, because it's been overused, it gets used so much, it starts to lose its meaning. And so I think I don't really use that term so much. Even if I think it, I try to use another term because I feel like it's used so much that it's lost its meaning.
Its meaning.
Yeah.
Did I tell you? Did I tell you about my rhino experience at convention?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, it was awesome. All right.
Oh, okay. Your rhino experience.
So I'm a huge proponent that if you're going to talk stuff, especially online, don't get brave, be kind of keyboard. Like whatever you're going to say here, you need to be able to say to somebody's face.
Oh,
I don't have that problem. Yeah. I grew up in an era where, you popped off at the mouth, you got punched in the mouth, so I never worry about that. Well, there was I was talking to one individual, and I won't say his name, but they're running for an office, and another young lady comes by, and she's just cheering, having a grand old time about, yeah, things are going our way. No endorsement. Yeah, we got to get rid of these rhinos. And I looked at her, and I can kind of tell like she knew me from somewhere, but couldn't quite put her finger on it. So I told her, I'm like, rhino, huh? So what about me? What do you mean? I'm like, well, I'm a rhino. Plain as day. Rhino. RINO. No H. Republican in name only, right? I just joined the party here in January. I never called myself a Republican. I have called myself a conservative. So what about me?
That's a good point.
You gonna call me out? Well, no, you're the good kind. Oh, so now there's a good kind, and
so you could spin it both ways. I mean, you could.
I suppose you could, but the problem is, though, again, people like to pop off at the mouth, and they do it around safe company. They do it behind a keyboard, but when called out in person, reality is a mm-mm.
Well, that's like, again, I think people can make it a one issue thing where if you do it, if you don't agree with one issue, my dog. Okay, hold on. We'll see if she keeps bugging me. But
your executive producer's having problems too over there, I see.
What's that?
I see your executive producer's having some concerns as well too. Huh?
Yes.
Yep.
You know what, guys? I'm gonna have to take care of my dog for just a minute. Okay, I'll be back.
No, by all means.
Okay, I'll be back.
Well, I mean, again, man, this is part of the concern when we fixate so much on labels.
Mm-hmm.
And now we have to try to carve out, well, who's the rhino, who isn't, who's down. It's almost like one of those things that in the Black community we have, well, she's not Black enough.
Orlando ghetto pass revoked.
So what does Black enough means?
Right.
He's not conservative enough.
Well, you lost your Black card because you speak proper English. You don't speak with the
the vernacular of the So again, I think
of popcorn kernels over here. Yeah, but that was the word I was going to use, with the vernacular of the area. And if you don't do that, you don't go along with that, then somehow you're a sellout. You're this, you're that, and it's like, wait a minute, I'm achieving excellence for our people.
Right.
But we have
And
a
I think
problem here.
and I think that's what we have to. That's why having labels are so sometimes counterproductive, and
Yeah.
they box people in. You and I, Ed, have had discussions in the past, and someone brought up today or yesterday. Mark Belling here in the Milwaukee area was talking about all the work of Act 10
Yeah.
because the WEA, which is the Teachers Union Healthcare Plan,
Yes. Yep.
they announced that they're leaving healthcare, 95% of it. And he talked about how Act 10 really was needed because they would charge all these astronomical numbers and rates
Oh
for
yeah.
teachers, and they could get away with it because none of the teachers were paying into their healthcare benefits at all. And
Mm-hmm.
so, and where did that money go? Do they put the money into those coffers? And so I say that again just to say how we have to be careful of the labels of who. And let me go back to what he was saying. He brought it up also in remembering Dale Schultz. Dale
Yeah.
Schultz, and Ryan can attest to it. Dale Schultz was the only one that voted, only Republican, I believe, that voted no against the Act 10.
Mm-hmm.
One of the big reasons he voted no was because he represented a swing district.
Right.
And so he felt that Act 10 went too far for his district that he represented. That Dale Schultz was always kind of like, I don't know about his vote. I don't know where Dale's going to, because he represented the swing district.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have swing districts, does that make that person who's a conservative a rhino because his district is a swing district? Could he be more conservative if that district was more conservative? My answer would probably be yes, he probably
Right.
would. Or when Dale Schultz first ran for office, if that district was more red than blue, they probably would have elected someone who was more red than blue. But when that district was formed, Dale Schultz represented that district for a long time, my friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was a union district.
Okay.
A lot of teachers union, a lot of, I guess government workers in this district. And so, again, we have to be very cautious when we label people things and call people names. Um, and,
But I
I
think
think
we also got to look at the bigger picture too, because that person that's in a swing district can sometimes make the difference between whether or not you're going to be in control of the Senate or the Assembly or Congress. And I mean, Congress, the Senate is a great example, 50-50 down the middle. And with Kamala Harris as a tie-breaking vote. And if there's an individual who, he goes too far to the right, what's perceived to be in that moderate district, well, now it's 51-49. Or, so you got to be careful with that, because you have to look at the bigger picture and where does everyone fit in the puzzle, in the puzzle mixture.
so.
Sure.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Steph.
No, and I missed some of what you were saying earlier, but no, I think sometimes things are black and white, and sometimes it's more complex. So I do think sometimes it can matter what type of district someone lives in and how they, vote and stuff. I mean, for me, it's interesting because I was having this conversation the other day with a state legislator who's from a different district. And we were talking on the phone, and we were discussing like how you handle yourself depending on what kind of district you live in. And I was saying how I'm like, well, I said, honestly, I would still be sincere with, like, I would have to stand up for what I believe in. But I said, maybe your focus is different, or, maybe you focus on the things that are your constituents are bringing to you, where you're not doing your own agenda necessarily. You run on a certain platform and you listen to what people are focused on.
Right.
And if a certain issue comes up and you have to, follow your convictions, then so be it, of course. And you should follow your convictions, but there's maybe a way that you handle it. I guess there's a political side to it, in a sense that, you got to listen to what's really important to the people in your district, and still stay true to who you are, but also, be a good listener and know that sometimes you have to strategize about how you're going to handle certain things, I guess I would say.
And it's never a bad thing. And this is about your ability to legislate and to have great relationships with legislators. Is when you know that there's a bill about to come up in a week or so, because everybody's getting emails and getting all their solicitation as far as they want someone to vote for it.
Yep.
How you feel about this particular piece of legislation, and you've got to have a good feeling of what your district feels. If not, in those 2 weeks before this thing comes before a vote, you need to be having several teleconference town halls.
Yeah.
And hey, listen, there's a vote about to come up in a week or two. But let me get you guys' feedback, because I'm gonna tell you where I feel about it. But I'm only one voice in the district.
Yep. Let's hear what you guys have to say. In the chat room, somebody makes a great question here. And I think, let's go to the question first. Does it make sense to vote for somebody just because they have an R next to their name? I do believe that, yes, it did in the past. Today, I don't know. But I'm going to throw this here to somebody who's in our green room right now, because he is kind enough to grace us with his presence here. And I got to tell you, I like this guy because he calls me at like all hours of the day. And oftentimes I play phone tag with him. Mr. Justin Schmidtka here, Badger State Resistance, coming outside for a smoky treat. What's up, big dog?
How we doing, guys? It's I only got a few minutes here, so because my phone's almost dead. And well, we were out celebrating, the success of these signatures, but I just got an email from my county chair saying that all candidates in the fall are being challenged.
What do you mean?
Stephanie, if you want to get my number from Orlando, you want to forward her the email. I sent it to your Orlando for WI at Yahoo.
Okay.
I sent you that, but I got it from my county chair that says all candidates in the fall election. So I'm assuming that means all statewide, all assembly, all state senate are being challenged. This is a play that the Democrats have done in other states. We just saw it happen in Michigan. I'm not saying that it's Democrats, because it's not an official email to my campaign from the WEC. But yes. So to your question though, Ed, quick, is it important to vote R? The Democratic Party has walked away from what the Democratic Party once stood for. This is not the same party as JFK. This is not the same party as our elders that,
Hell, it's not even the same party as Bill Clinton.
Correct.
That's true.
Party that has been hyped by extreme leftists that would see communism flood our country, and sadly, we are witnessing this widespread of socialism and communist tactics. I would say that in many ways, you could look at the Libertarian Party, but the issue with the Libertarian Party that I'm finding is that these are a lot of Democrats that just want their 2A rights. Sorry.
Interesting.
So when it comes,
but real quick here, quick, to be fair, those cats from the Mises caucus, boy, they're taking over, and they're kind of talking some common sense for a change. So that's just got to be fair about that part.
Now, if they do that, if that's what the Libertarian Party becomes, Republicans better watch out. The Republican Party better watch out, because Americans are really fed up with party politics. They're more than ready for term limits, especially Republicans. But I think in this upcoming election, when we really look at how critical it is to salvage what's left of our republic, I would say about 98% of the people that we need to vote for are Republicans, and we might have a libertarian or an independent or a constitution or whatever party that's out there. There may be a really solid candidate in those races. I know that we have some debate going on up here in the 8th Congressional District, with Mike Gallagher and Jake Vandenplas. I'm not a huge fan of Gallagher, but at the same time, I think Gallagher's done okay. But then again, there's Jake Vandenplus who speaks a lot of my lingo. But then when we get to open borders, I'm out. I'm out.
You know what's interesting? I had a conversation with him after a school board meeting, and I hadn't met him yet. And so he was sitting next to me, not realizing that I was the chairman of the Republican Party, the local Republican Party. And so we were having a good conversation afterwards. And then he mentioned something about running for office. And I go, oh, yeah. I said, no, I knew that actually. And I said, well, just for full disclosure, I'm the chair of the Republican Party of Door County. He's like, oh, he's like, okay. And he was trying to get my support. But then I found out he's, and I'm assuming I'm guessing he said this publicly, but he told me that he can't stand Trump. So I just thought that was interesting because I don't know if he meant he couldn't stand him personally or that he didn't agree with him on a lot of things. I mean, we had a conversation about different issues and stuff, and I could tell there was a few areas I disagreed with. And I did say, well, you know what? I'm sure we can find some common ground, more so than on the left. But yeah, libertarians, there are times where there's different, I guess you'd say, on the spectrum. Some libertarians are more liberal on social issues or liberal on, just certain issues where maybe others aren't quite. Like, I like Rand Paul. Like, that's about my level of libertarianism, and I'm comfortable with that. So I know people like Ron Paul. I'm more Rand Paul. So anyways, but I had a good conversation with him, and I think he's a good guy and stuff. I just
Jake is a person that has a lot of really, really good ideas, and he is a former Republican that felt like the party left him, and in a lot of ways, I think a lot of us feel the same way. To be honest with you, with everyone on this call, on this forum, I think in a lot of ways we feel the Republican Party has left us in different ways. So I don't fault Jake for stepping up and having the courage to put his name in the fire, as we've seen. Certain individuals go after, but at least he is somebody that he is willing to put his name in the fire. There is no Democratic challenger into that district, so it is going to be in our district, Stephanie. It is going to be an interesting race to see, because there is a lot of Republicans that are not happy with Mike Gallagher, and a lot of that has to do with the January 6th stuff that came out, and red flag laws that were voted on.
Now, you know what? Real quick, that red flag law thing, just because you mentioned it.
Yep.
I had a lot of people come to me about that concern and all that. But what happened was, it was initially, like, the initial bill was voted on, and then that was slipped in by Democrats at the last minute. But then
they added a rider onto there.
Right. And so, but then what happened was, he said, because I talked to Patrick, who worked for him at the time, and he said, Mike is confident that when it goes to conference or goes to, like, where they take certain things out of the bill to get the final version, he was confident he could get that red flag law out of there. And then he did. He got it out of there. So I think sometimes there's, like, because I think he even brought that up at that time. And I don't know if that had happened yet, where they had voted on the final bill without the red flag law in it, or the provision or whatever. So, sometimes there might be some legitimate disagreements. And believe me, I personally, like, and I consider Mike as a friend, but I remember being pretty upset about how he handled the January 6th thing. So I basically was like, in fact, I never texted him, but I texted him and I said, Mike, it's really important. Can you please call me? Because I need to figure this out. Well, Patrick ended up, I think Mike was busy at the moment in DC on something. So he said, told Patrick to reach out to me. So I told Patrick, I said, Patrick, I'm not happy with how that was handled. I need to talk to Mike and figure out where he's coming from. A lot of people upset, whatever. So Mike, to his credit, within a few days after hearing a lot of feedback, he basically met with 5 of the county chairmen. All of them were invited from our district, but 5 of us were there. And we duked it out for 2 hours, where he gave his perspective. We explained why we felt the way we did. And I feel like we, in the end, came to an understanding on some things, at least. And he admits that he shouldn't have he made a mistake and how he handled it. But I do look at someone's record overall, and I would say I agree with him the vast majority of the time with how he's voted. So, I do understand people being upset about that, but then I'm the type of person that, like, hey, can I talk to you about this and find out what was going on in your head with that? And I really need you to know I wasn't happy with that, but hey, let's work through it. So I feel like he was a good listener with that, and he admits that he should have handled it better. And he knew he had to earn the trust back of some people. So, and I know some people, it's just, they're, no matter what, they're not happy about it, and they're not going to ever be back on board with him. But I do try to look at the overall record. So yeah, that's my spiel.
And then one last thing I wanted to add to the whole party thing. Party that I really want to be affiliated with is the America First Caucus. The America First Party, the party that's for and by the people. That's where I stand. So, but
sure,
I agree with
that's good.
Oh shoot, I lost you.
We lose them.
There we go.
It's hard to see you, Justin.
Just leave it as CB always blocking the light.
CB will screw up a show.
There you go.
CB dims light. That's CB.
I'm going to tell you something. Now that I get the glorified name of CB, just.
It's an inside joke, Stephanie. We have to talk to you offline about.
I know.
We really do, because this is
it's adult rated. We'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
Okay.
But what I got
for the heads up
is that the amount of power that I did not realize that I had, down all kinds of different events, and literally these people must have had some type of. I'm gonna have to put one of those tinfoil hats with the little cone up on my head, because apparently I'm thinking my thoughts, because I don't even have to say anything and I get things shut down.
Interesting.
I see stuff. I all kinds of crazy
Jedi mind tricks.
I am literally like Master Yoda.
CB Yoda in the house.
Yoda.
Well, that's what I did when I was saying the prayer at the convention. I shut the lights. I had all the lights shut off, and then I made it look like I got the lights back on in the middle of,
You don't want to compare prayer with CB.
Prayer is strong. CB might be stronger. I'm just, yeah.
The force is strong right now. The force is strong.
Force is very strong.
Him force is strong in him force
changes.
Strong in the force is CB.
Force is he strong with force. Yes, he is.
Oh boy.
I'll tell you later about this, Stephanie.
Tell me later, please.
The bad part is we're gonna tell Stephanie, and poor girl's gonna turn as red as her hair.
Oh yeah.
There's a bunch of seventh graders, grown seventh graders with gray beards.
Oh my gosh.
You know what? Stephanie, you got to realize when you're talking with us, it's like dealing with an army of 10-year-olds. It's just kind of how we roll.
Well, that's.
Well.
I didn't say it. You did.
I was talking to my son. Who's 10. It's like, hey, dude, should I tell people I got an army of 10-year-olds? And he goes, well, Dad, sometimes you act like a 10-year-old. I'm like, you ain't wrong, dude. I can't even get mad about that.
That's solid.
Your son knows.
Like he said 100%, and it's like, that's what I told you to do. So, all right, straight.
Well, Justin, you got to get out of here. Did you want to wrap up with a quick assessment?
I'm gonna keep celebrating, and you know what? Regardless of what happens with these signatures, if the game want to continue to play, it will backfire. It's going to backfire more than they are already going to be backfired on. November. And like I said, we don't know if this is the Democrats, but I'm fully assuming that it is. It's a full-on assault against the United States. We, the people, need to band together and stay strong, protect our Constitution, and remember that America is the greatest country that has ever been put on the face of this planet. There's never been a country like this. Nobody's trying to leave this country to go make it somewhere else. Everybody's trying to come here.
They're trying to get in.
Amen.
Facts.
All right,
Justin, plug the website, man.
Well, badgestateresistance.com. We're a little bit behind on that, but you can find us on most social media platforms, and definitely check out justinforwi.com for my Secretary of State run. We're going to get rid of that election commission. We're going to bring true leadership back to a Secretary of State's office that has been missing leadership since 1974, folks. And I'm going to work with Orlando, and we're really going to make some offices great again. So,
Beautiful.
all right, guys,
Beautiful.
have a good one.
All right, Justin. Thanks for jumping on, man.
So
let's switch gears here.
All right.
Let's switch gears because we got some dark, heavy topics here. And it's kind of rough because when you think about what's happened over the last week, it's like been one tragedy right after another. And I think it started with, Boston. I think it was Boston. Yeah, that shooting at that grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Bunch of people got shot up. You got Uvalde, 23 people died. 21 children, I think it was. I mean, what kind of monster? I'm trying not to swear here. See, I try not to swear when I do the videos.
Good job.
But that doesn't always work. It works most of the time. The Tuesday night podcast, cover your, get your earmuffs. But obviously we had Uvalde. There's been several other shootings here. You have Racine just the other day. Then there was another shooting at a hospital in Tulsa, Oklahoma yesterday. There
Wow.
was a stabbing where I think 3 people got stabbed at a hospital tonight.
Oh, really?
Buffalo, New York is what kicked it off.
Oh, geez.
Now we have Democrats that are pushing gun legislation. They are pushing gun restrictions. They are trying to push this gun control narrative. And of course, it's a straw man argument because you got certain individuals, and I should find the link here, but there's a guy who was talking about, well, we're going to end up, we're coming for your guns. We're not going to rest until we get all your guns. And it's like, whoa, wait a second here. You want to confiscate guns? Canada has already said we're banning handguns. No sale of no new handguns, anything like that. You got people talking about, AR-15s as this lethal weapon. And it is lethal. Don't get me wrong. Hell, a 22. I've been shot with a 22. I would not recommend it. But at the same point, the AR-15 was generally chambers in 5.56 and 2.23. 5.56 and 7.62. Generally, you can get variants of some other ones. But my point simply is, there are other weapons that have far greater power, such as a 50 cal, which also comes in a handgun, 30-06, 308. There's a bunch of them that are out there. And it's just because these guns happen to look menacing. They're black. Orlando would take offense to that because he knows that black guns matter.
All guns matter.
All guns matter. That's right. But my point here is these people are they're unhinged. They are literally coming for our guns. And it was funny because years ago we said this is exactly what they were going to do. And what were we told? No, we're not coming for your guns. Like hell, you're not.
You're wearing a tinfoil hat. Well, somebody told me the other day, we should just ban our AR-15s. I said, well, why wouldn't you ban handguns? Because those are the ones that are used, murders occur with handguns the most. So, but he's, well, yeah, but, if you could just stop some with the AR-15, which is more of a deadly, like assault, he's like the assault rifle. It's an assault rifle. And I'm like,
here.
He goes, we're not coming for the handguns. I go, did you hear Joe Biden the other day?
Right, because he didn't get the memo. But here's the thing. Here's the kicker about all of it. And it doesn't matter if we're talking handguns, assault rifles, if such a thing does exist, which it does. But in order for you to truly get an assault rifle, you have to go through like a year-long background check, FFL,
well, that's like
the
a
whole
made-up term, right? I mean, people think that AR stands for assault rifle.
Well, right. And it's like, no, that's Armalite, jackass.
Yeah.
It's a brand name. It's a manufacturer's name.
Yeah.
AK means always killing. No, it's you're not pronouncing his name right. But the thing is, though, is these people are. This is not a tinfoil hat thing. They have told you. Beto O'Rourke, Robert Francis, the fake Mexican, has told you this is what he was doing. That's what he wanted to do.
Yep.
You know, I got this guy right here, Congressman, Democrat lawmaker on the House Judiciary Committee. He said, what did he say here? He goes, he then threatened that we will expand the Supreme Court if objects to new gun control legislation exist. And he said this during a meeting here, and I got to get this gentleman's name. Black Democrat lawmaker. Not that it really makes a difference that he's black, but the gentleman's name here, I'm going to mispronounce his name. Moderi Jones. He's a Democrat out of New York. And basically what he's saying here is that any obstruction, any holding back gun control legislation, they're going to stack the Supreme Court.
They are so lawless. They're just so lawless they pretend like they want to uphold the law, but then they like do the exact opposite. Oh, we don't get our way. We're just going to like do it through the courts. We're going to legislate through the courts. We must fight this. Yes. Amen.
Yes. 1,000%.
And the thing is, they want to, if you give them an inch, so I'm hoping the Republicans are listening. I mean, I don't know what's going on with the legislation yet with that proposed gun legislation, but hopefully they just shoot it right down.
Yeah, the one that it passed in the House right now. Okay. And I'm not sure the details of it, but their fear is that it's dead at the Senate because they can't break the filibuster. But that's the other thing they have threatened. We're going to go ahead and do the nuclear option, get rid of the filibuster. And this is where Republicans in Congress in particular need to kind of like, I don't know, reach down, grab a pear, and be like, when Republicans take control of the Senate, at some point, somebody's going to get rid of the filibuster. The question is whether it's going to be us or them. And you should probably do it when it's us.
I don't know, Ed. I get a little nervous about that.
Yeah, but the problem is that we're so far down the rabbit hole, there is no more coming back. We are not going back to the 90s. We're never going to get to that point. And we can we can sit here and say peaceful divorce all we want, but history teaches us. The Civil War teaches us. We had peaceful divorce. But peaceful divorce ended when people wanted the bases, the military, and all the other assets that came along with that. That's when peaceful divorce ended.
Yeah. Well, of course, this is just in the House. I was thinking with the House, we could win a lot of seats in the House where we can get a good majority. The Senate obviously will be more, that will be a little bit closer, obviously. But the whole point of the filibuster is to give power to the minority, some kind of say to the minority power and
protections to the minority, right?
Right, correct. So I think, for me personally, I would be hesitant to go after that, even if I know like the Democrats would try it. Like I have to give a lot of credit to Joe Manchin. I really do, because he has stood his ground on that.
Him and Kristen Sinema.
Yeah, I have to I'm so thankful that they have stood their ground under intense pressure. So, I have to give him credit, and at least he's consistent, but I totally understand the temptation to do that. Of course, I do give credit to the Republicans after Harry Reid did the nuclear option for appointing or approving,
Merrick Garland.
Yeah, like with the Senate approving appointed justices and judges.
Yeah, that was for Merrick Garland toward the end of Obama's term.
Right. So I do give them credit for saying, well, Harry Reid changed it. We're going to use it now because he changed it under Democrats. And so now we're going to just go with it because that's what they changed it. And so now we're going to take advantage of that. So I'm just reading this comment.
Elect we the people candidates. When criminals commit mass murders and shit, we absolutely go for the mandatory death penalty and televise it. Oh, as much as I love the idea, number one, that's cruel and unusual punishment. I know you could say, well, wait a minute, that's not cruel and unusual. in today's era, it is, and there are certain things that do change with the times. Secondly,
we don't do beheadings.
we don't do beheadings. It's not like when England stopped
Not in
doing
our country,
beheadings
at
in the
least.
middle of the 1900s. It was like they had like one final big hurrah, and then they off with the head. There are issues, obviously, with that. I am a huge proponent of the death penalty.
I agree with the death penalty.
Yeah, when people are like, well, how can you reconcile that with like abortion? I'm like, well, the baby didn't commit a crime. You
Right.
committed a crime that was so heinous that you were judged by a jury of your peers that says, you have done something so terrible that we have deemed that you have forfeit your life because of that.
Right.
Big difference, night and day. Thing is, though, you got to get the death penalty instituted here in the state of Wisconsin and make sure nobody's following things up. That's the beauty of technology. We can find out quicker rather than later whether or not we're going to do that. But
what about this one?
Yes, sir.
I get the public display of punishment. So I don't know if you guys saw this, and I think we talked about it a little bit, but the guy who did the documentary about the Kia boys.
Oh, I heard about that this morning. I didn't watch it, but I heard about it.
How the truth kind of slipped out. That these young men and women are not afraid of going to jail because they're only getting misdemeanors. They're only going to be 3 weeks.
It's a rite of passage.
This is the problem with the catch and release and all the people who want to see, nobody sit down for anything. This is the problem because you have to fear punishment.
Yep.
I'm not doing it because I don't want the punishment. That's how you first learn your lessons in life. Like if you were a baby, you learn what's hot by don't touch that. I'm going to pop your hands, and you hands.
Or you had a parent that was like mine. It was like, go on, touch it. And then you touched it, you're like crying, you're mad, and dad's standing back here like this. I told you.
And out of those young people's mouths, they said, we're not really scared of the police at all.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. How are we surprised of the reckless abandonment and this disregard for the law when they say it themselves? We don't worry about the police. They know that they don't chase. They chase as long as you're not driving reckless. This is what I mean when you try to do all these first-time offender programs, deferred prosecution, probation, and this, that, and the other, and dropping. Look at what's happened. That the young people they said to themselves, like, I'm not afraid of the police.
Right.
Okay.
It's like Bernie Mac. I ain't scared of y'all, but that's the problem. And it's the interesting thing about this is not something that's new. And I am kind of bewildered by the fact that a lot of the media organizations are picking up on this now as if it is something new. And exactly. I think if you've lived on the north side or the south side of Milwaukee, you know that for some folks coming up, getting locked up, doing a little bit of time is a rite of passage. That's what made you a man. And if you didn't get caught up, then it's like, no, that's not the same. You didn't earn your stripes that way.
Well, again, it just showed how brazen they were against, law and order. Mm-hmm. And when we have all this, trauma, and we just need stuff for them to do. When these young people can say, I'm not afraid of going to jail because it's only a misdemeanor. It's 3 weeks long. I can do that on my head.
Yep.
That's in essence what they're saying.
Well, you got 3 hots in the cot and you get to learn things from other people in there.
It's a vacation.
It's a win-win.
I'm going to sit down for 3 weeks. I'm out of here. I'm a juvenile. It's a misdemeanor. If that's not a blatant disregard for law and order and the rule of law, mm-hmm. We have now seen the ideas when the young people say, I'm not afraid of the police. And on a generic sense, you shouldn't be afraid of the police. But what you should be afraid of, is your punishment if you did something wrong. When you don't have any fear of punishment, then the reprimand or trying to stop what you from doing has no authority. If you say,
Right.
"Well, I don't care if I get a whooping, I don't care if my mama getting mad, I'm gonna do what I'm gonna do," you have lost respect for your mother. In this case, you have lost respect for your common citizens. You have lost
Hmm.
respect for just the law, just the rule of common decency. That you're stealing a vehicle, and also you're driving reckless. And you said, "I'm not scared of the police."
I remember back in the day, and I remember one time I was mouthing off to my dad, and I got in trouble, obviously. And I was told, either way you'll get the belt or you're going to be grounded. And back then, it was like you weren't being grounded for like a week, a day. It was like 3 or 4 months at a time. And I was like, all right, take your belt. Because at this point, now I'm over here like, I don't know, 11, 12, something like that. It wasn't the first ass whooping I've ever gotten. And it was like, okay, hurt for a moment and I'll get over it. Not a big deal. Because once you've taken a whooping, you know what's up. My dad straight looked at me right in the eye and he was like, nah, 3 months, you ain't leaving that room. I was like, damn. And then he hit me harder than anything he could have done. Anything physically, anything else. He just looked at me and was like, I'm really disappointed with you. And I was like, oh, just yeah.
That's interesting that you pointed
It would
out.
have been better if he had just straight punched me right in the face and just like cold cocked me, knocked me out, and like I was all busted up for a time. I would have taken that over him being disappointed with me, and it was like, man. But I think that's also a change in a lot of our cultural shifts here, cultural paradigms,
Yes.
and we don't have that level of respect.
You
It's one thing to challenge our parents. I'll take the beating. You can ground me. Oh, damn, I disappointed you. Damn, that's hard.
Well, and what's sad is that, like, so nowadays with a lot of kids in these, in their home life, if they don't have a father there, they don't have a father figure that they look up to, or that they would be, like you said, it was hard to think that you disappointed your dad. Well, some of these kids don't have fathers in their lives that they would, not want to let down or not want to
Mm-hmm.
disappoint. And so they're
No
kind of
strong male role model.
right, exactly. So that is an incredibly important thing that, well, even with like these, a lot of these shooters, that these school shooters, their father's not in the picture. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily because there's, I know kids that grow up without fathers that don't turn out like that, but just it's a factor. I believe it's a
Yeah,
factor because there's a common thread there. And so
absolutely.
your home life, how you are raised, the values you're raised with, whether you have that love and support and discipline and all of those things that are important, absolutely can affect, this is, you need, in order to have strong communities, you need to have strong families.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have the breakdown of the family, which I think was a goal of, communism is they want to, break down the family and
Yep.
mess that all up. And so, that's one of the goals, is because then you can invites, you know, um, chaos and disorder, and it allows the government to say, hey, this is a major problem. We need to come in and fix it. And
Let
then
me
they make,
interject this here, Stephanie, if you don't mind.
no, go ahead.
Let me interject this. And I think Orlando can speak to this too. When we look at what is the true strength of the family, the cornerstone of the family, it is the father. And some people can say that's misogynistic. Some people can say it's whatever. But history, generation after generation, for millennia, has proven this to be true. Now, the mother is the how the caregiver, the life bringer, and everything else. And I think for true feminists, and I look at my wife, she is the truest sense of a feminist. She doesn't. She's not the head of the household. That's me. She's like, you might be the head of the house, but I'm the neck. And You look at the strongest women in history. They're the ones that had control of the strongest men in history, the cornerstone. When you take away that cornerstone, now you have a weak foundation. The house crumbles. I know, Stephanie. What are your thoughts
Yeah,
on that?
no, I think because I know a lot of single moms who there's something about a father that brings like authority, an authority figure, the disciplinary. You know, my son is more concerned about getting in trouble with his dad than he is with me. Now, I do discipline. I do my best when I'm at home with him during the day, and we butt heads at times and all that. But especially number one, when you're doing it alone, when you don't have a father, when you don't have a partner there to help you, that's number one. I mean, that's one of the things. Also, again, there is something about the head that, you know, I would say the head of the household, the father, that brings an like brings authority and, you know, somebody who's going to lay down the law and has a little bring a little fear, a healthy fear, you know, of, you know, getting in trouble. And I think that when you take that out, and especially when you have a mom, a single mom trying to do everything, it's hard. I get worn down. There's been times where I get worn down at the end of the day of dealing with kids all day, and I get tired, and it's hard to, you know, follow through on some things with, you know, with discipline, and you can get worn down. And if you don't have somebody at the end of the day who's coming home to help you out, I mean, it's hard to run a household by yourself and to take care of kids all by yourself. So when those fathers are absent, there's all sorts of issues I think
Yep.
that arise from it. So
Orlando, what do you think, man?
I think one of the biggest things, one of the first biblical principles you learn is that you must first fear God.
Mm-hmm.
yes.
And once you understand that healthy level of fear is from a level of reference to God, that you do not want to see his wrath. You don't want to see that part of God. For the word of God say, I am a jealous God. Put no other thing or God before me.
You don't want this smoke.
Right. So when you have that healthy reverence for authority, you have a better grasp of boundaries.
Yes.
And this is what our society now has lacked and failed. I've said this in private conversations, and I'll try my best to be very delicate how I approach this right now, is that a lot of our urban areas or our more poor areas, be it urban or rural, there is a lack of the disciplinarian. It is most of these cities, because of incarceration, death, and just flat out just garbageness happening, they're very they're not patriarchal. Meaning father figure. They're led by the women, and the women do their best. First, let me be clear: it was never meant for man nor woman to raise children by themselves.
Nope.
It was meant for these to be two, because you need each other to have a healthy balance with children, to show them what is healthy boundaries and how men and women are supposed to interact with each other in a healthy way. And so when you have more, and you need that fear of, I don't want to see that wrath, because that is the warning before destruction. You spare the rod and you spoil the child. These are the very basic tenets of having a civil family and have a civil society. These teachings of boundaries must first be taught at home. If they're not taught at home, then they're going to be taught in the streets or in prison. And this is the problem that we have, because we do not have the paternal guidance that we have. We have the maternal, which is always very nurturing, very I'll just leave it at nurturing, because we are distinctly made in our makeup and our roles. And so often people don't want to talk about that. This is why you need to have a healthy, marriage is important. That, we don't need to have all these children out of wedlock with no fathers, no mothers. It's just not healthy. You're not supposed to do it, because it's just not the way God intended it to be. He intended for having two people to do this, because you need to see both sides. You need to see the nurturing side to say, okay. You also need to have the disciplinarian side to say, this is the line you will not pass. We have no one doing that. So now look in the city of Milwaukee. We got shootings every night, and we have young men, if you ever see, which is one of the most, it is bad sometimes when you can see a mother emasculate a young boy
Yeah.
and talk to him as if first speak to him as if he's not a child, as if he's an adult, and to
Hmm.
emasculate that boy. You do realize that that young man is going to come up two ways. Either he will become over feminized, over
Hmm.
over whatever, or he's going to be a woman beater because he hates you, his mother. You have now you have stepped down, you have beat down his masculinity in him,
Yep.
and now you want him to emulate the things of a girl and not a boy's behavior. You cannot be surprised if you see these tendencies coming out of your boys when you have just emasculated him to never. And when he grows up, he will love women or he will hate them.
Yep.
Either he will want to become a woman or he will hate every woman that ever speaks. Either ever have a cross word against.
Hmm. Well, I think that's an interesting thing that you point out, and I'm gonna try to be very delicate on how I say this because I think what happens is, and I see this in a lot of, it used to be more within minority communities. Now it seems to cross all socioeconomic backgrounds because I see this is done also within, Caucasian, upper middle class people, and one either the mother starts looking at the kid as the man of the house, essentially treating that kid like if he's the boyfriend, which is really weird because, well, yeah, I need you to take care of me. Or just as bad, you ain't doo doo. Your daddy wasn't doo doo. You look like your daddy. I hate your dad. And no positive words about the dad. No positive co-parenting, which I think leads to what Orlando was talking about. He ends up being emasculated. He just told he ain't crap. He ain't gonna be about crap. He'll never be crap. You know, a good example of that, if you ever seen Boys in the Hood, you look at Ice Cube, his little kid character, his mom told him exactly that. What happened to him? Over hyper masculine gangbanger. And what you end up having is it's either that to one extreme, or like you said, they want to be women. And wait, and I don't know which one's worse, because if you're gonna start going on the one side where you're a little more feminine, that's you and whoever you're dealing with. On the other side of it, though, the hyper masculinity, now we start getting into issues of depression, mental health, reaction. Case in point, Racine. Not even funerals are sacred anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
You guys, I think Christine, you were alluding to that earlier.
Yep.
Or I mean, Stephanie, excuse me. Please don't beat me up. I said Christine, and the reason I say Christine because Christine's in the chat room and she's talking about this here, and I'm reading this and thinking
it's okay,
something at the same time. Please don't beat me, but please.
No,
you were talking about Racine.
Yeah, and I didn't actually read all the details. It sounded like it was a gang-related shooting, right?
Yes.
I didn't. Okay, so I didn't read all.
That was my impression, but I haven't seen anything officially come across the wire yet.
I'm pretty sure it was, but yeah, it's. I mean, so Orlando alluded to it earlier. When he was talking about a healthy fear of God and being raised. When you're raised with certain values, even in a home where there's a single, if there's a single parent or a mom, if you instill good values in them, and if you can even find father figures, like someone for them to look up to and try to emulate, in their life at church, or a good role model. I mean, I think that can be helpful, So I just remember when I was a kid and I had an unbalanced fear of screwing up and doing the wrong thing. And I felt like I was, a disappointment to a lot of people, including, and I was a disappointment to God. So I had an out of balance fear. However, I would say that there was a fear of doing something wrong and having consequences whether it was God or my parents, so I had that in me, which kept me from doing a lot of, I had plenty of opportunities to do things I shouldn't have done. And the vast majority of the time I resisted doing certain things because I just felt convicted about it. So, having a conscience and having values that you're taught and raised with, and of healthy respect for God and for the authority figures in your life, when you're raised with that, even in a single parent home, there are some things that can help supplement. But obviously, nobody can replace a father. I mean, it's hard. I know I have several friends who are single moms, and it's hard for them. And I give them a lot of credit for everything they do. But again, having a helpmate is, I think. I mean, I'm so thankful for my husband, because it would be a lot of work if I was doing it all on my own.
Let me say this
gotta be true too, though. A woman can't raise a man,
and a man can't raise a woman.
There it is,
right.
100%.
So
we are getting really politically incorrect right now.
Well, call it the Bible.
What? It may be politically incorrect, but it is what has served humanity since the dawn of time.
Yeah,
these are healthy relationships and boundaries. But again, I will tell you this, man. Listen, I went to visit my aunt, as we say, auntie.
Auntie.
I went to visit
I said that to my aunt one time. She's like, "Do I look like a little creature on the floor?" And I'm like, "Why are you busting my chops? I'm 7 years old."
When I got older, she was aunt, but when I was younger, she was auntie.
Right.
So we would go visit. Every summer, we'd go out and visit our cousins down in St. Louis. Man, my Aunt Wanda,
STL,
must have gave one of her kids a whooping. I just happened to witness it. I said, man, I will never. She whooped my cousin. I said, I will never have her get angry with me. Because it was the fear, and that fear made you do right. And so when my cousin got done getting whooped, I said, man, you better stop crying, because she can come get you some more. But I'll tell you, for that whole summer, she had raised her voice with me not at one time. When she called, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I saw what she did with my cousin. I was like, oh, no, I want no parts of that. No smoke with that at all. No, man.
I know better.
And you only need to get it. So I didn't get a lot of whoopings. I only caught it once or twice, and I was like, yeah, this ain't what I'm for. I'm not built to be getting beat, so I'm gonna stop or getting disciplined. But it made you understand the boundaries, man. And then and to Ed's point, one of the most difficult discipline situation I was ever in, my grandmother never put a hand on me. She simply said, I'm disappointed in you, and that's not the way I raised you. My grandma didn't speak to me for like 3 days.
Right
3 days. I said, I would rather you spend 15 minutes whooping me than not to talk to me for 3 days.
That's what Ed said.
I will take the beating.
And she said this because she said, I'm disappointed in you, and that's not the way we raised you. That had a more lasting impact. To say, man, I'll never make my grandma feel this bad again. That she felt like she can't even talk to me. I'm like, grandma's like, you're not my grandson. That ain't the way I'm with you.
And you know what? What's funny is like you be crying and stuff, because I remember I was. Don't talk to me. I love you, Dad. No, man, I want to deal with you. Get out of my sight.
Because you have to also understand, you need to do this at a young. And this is we're giving parental issue, lessons right now. You need to do this while a child is a child, so you don't have to exert that type of force.
And you have to do it before 8.
Because if you do it while they're young, once you train them, all it takes is your voice inflection. Sometimes all it takes is a look. Hey, what you doing?
I give my son the look.
in that
I
way.
give my son a look, he freezes.
You don't have to worry about ever beating your child or going over the top with your child. Because if you do it while they're young and you give the right corporal punishment, I'll say corporal punishment.
Yep, 100%.
In the way that is controlled, but also very impactful. I'll say it, Mr. Do Mr. Do Booty right. So if you do it that way, man, you will have a child thereafter. All it takes is a look or a voice inflection or a pause to say what, and it's like, oh, let me.
Yeah.
Well, and I think, just talking about all that, I think, like, so with my son, I always make sure that we talk after, he gets,
100%.
And, tell him I love him. And, this is, and in the heat of the moment, there's things that, like, my son will say something, he's, I'm the worst, or he'll tell me that I'm the worst, or he'll be upset in the moment because
I'll choke a child out. I ain't gonna lie. I'll choke a child out. I'm the worst. You about to learn.
I will give you something to cry about.
Have you seen a 300-pound man drop kick a child? You're about to.
I'll make your bad teeth click clack. You better stop talking to me.
It's funny. I talk all this like, I want to drop kick you, kid. Yeah, I drop kick you, and he's gonna get up and laugh because I can't get up. Because once I'm on the ground, I'm like a turtle that's upside down. It's just terrible.
See, but again, though, this is you used to have parents that said, "Listen, Mr. Police, I'm about to do what I have to do as the parent. You need to walk away and then come back." And the police at one time would say, "Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir." And they will walk off because either I'm going to get him right or you're going to have to get him right. And I rather that I do it because I'm going to do it out of love, because you're going to do it and you ain't going to have no cutoff. So let me do what I need to do and give me back my rights as a parent without, and we got to have a healthy understanding of what is discipline and what is abuse. These are two different things. Again, I can tell you when I got older, listen, my grandmother, my son, my oldest son, got too big for me to physically discipline, or I could have, but there's a chance that you could hurt him, right? So when he was like 9 or 10, and he got mouthy, I said, "This is what you finna do, son. Daddy has a sack of salt in the garage." And I'm gonna I said, "You're gonna go upstairs and get Daddy a big old glass of Kool-Aid and bring it downstairs. And go get that reclining that chair out the back, come bring it to the front. And I'm gonna sit right here." And he went and got the chair, gave me the Kool-Aid. I said, "Son, go give me that sack of salt in the back of the garage, bring it to the front of the house.
Bring it to the back.
And put it on the ground." I said, "Now, son, take it back to the back of the house and bring it back up to me when I get done. And I'm gonna sit here sipping on my Kool-Aid until I get tired of watching you."
That's right. You do it until I get tired. But I want to go back to Stephanie here, because Stephanie says something I think that is so incredibly important, because we can discipline our children, we can spank our kids, and there's a line of thought, especially from the left, that teaches you that might makes right. And let's be honest, might does make right. Violence is a supreme authority from which all other authority is derived. And we can attest to this historically through war, conquest, and everything else. And if we don't understand that, then we're missing the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is that if we're disciplining our kids, which is a form of violence, we need to also teach our kids why this was enacted. Stephanie had talked about the fact that she makes it a point to talk to her kids after any form of discipline, whether it be corporal, whether it be grounding, whether it be, a scolding. You talked about talking to them after the fact. Expand on that, because I think this is one of the things that is missing for a lot of people, which is why it leads to them having this piss poor attitude, where later on in life, they just, whether you're gangbanging, shooting things up, acting the fool, thinking there's no consequences, you're teaching a different skill set, a different mind.
Sure. So, and again, in the moment, my son is very upset if he can't do something, and then if he mouths off or has an attitude, then he gets in trouble, goes to his room, or we don't do spanking too much anymore, but there's a few times where I go, that was way over the line. You're gonna have to wait till your daddy gets home, but he's got the tears, he's all upset. So I go in there and we have a good time. And I tell him, you know what, honey, I love you. And I said, I don't like getting upset at you. I don't like disciplining you. It's no fun for me, but you have to have consequences. And I go over that and within it doesn't take long. And he's just like hugging me. And, we have a good relationship because we're very close, even though we butt heads a lot. And so I think that even though, because I know some parents are afraid that their kids are not going to like them or something. If
I'm
they
not here to be liked.
that's not, and I tell Gabe that because you say, I don't like you, or he's said a few, he doesn't say it much anymore, but there's a few times he said, I hate you. And I go, oh, I said, I'm sure you don't mean that. You're just upset right now. But I said, I'm not here to, make sure that you get everything you want. Like my job is to raise you to understand right and wrong. And when you do wrong, you need to have consequences, and it'll be good for you in the end. Trust me. Of course, he doesn't, kids, that's a lifelong learning process of understanding that. But someday they'll thank you for it.
Well, I like that. I like the debriefing because I'm going to have to incorporate that when after, because the only debriefing I got was doing the whooping. Didn't I tell you not to? I told you to sit down. When I said sit down, I'm like, you were getting the debrief while you was being debriefed.
Right.
I told you to sit down before.
Sure. Well, and there's always a balance, right? I mean, I feel like there's always a balance with, you can go, I've even read Dr. James Dobson has a book about Dare to Discipline. And there's parts of it that talk about making sure that you don't, and we've all made this mistake, I'm sure, where we're doing it all out of anger because we're frustrated and we're, we're just like, oh, I'm so tired of this. And we just yell at our kids. And then there's it can be out of control. So if you discipline in control, then it's much better than if you're flying off the handle at your kid, which again, I've done that before, because if I've had kids all day and my son is, saying, being disrespectful, I might snap at him, and, we're human. So we have those moments. But
you're saying something though, Stephanie, you're saying something right here. And this is good for parent counseling, because we don't turn into the parent counseling session right now.
That's all right.
So but you're saying
so without this though, you got people over here acting the damn fool, hurting people.
It's all part of it, right?
But what you're saying though, this is another reason why it was never meant to do this alone. Because when your husband, if he was there and heard you kind of say, he would have stepped in like, yeah, go sit down, son. Honey, you okay? Because you just got with him. Like, okay, I'm tired right now, honey. Like, okay, I got it.
You've had a long day.
Right. And that's how teamwork works, right? Yeah. I see like she's out of character. I know my wife's voice when she's trying to discipline. Either my son has just cut up really, really bad, or my wife is tired and she don't understand. And I need to jump in there and tag me in, like, I got it. I got you, honey. Yeah. Whatever she just said, go do it. Honey, you okay? I know I was making. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
Sure. That's an excellent point. Yep. Good job, Orlando.
And I'll tell you,
oh, go ahead.
This is actually a big thing, because I know myself, I can be, my expectations are ridiculously high. And I have to be mindful of that, because sometimes even I don't even live up to my own expectations, but I'm expecting from other people. And I think for me, that's a struggle I deal with on the daily, and that's a quest to try to be a better person than who I was the day before. Because I look at my kids and I'm like, I have to be the example for you. And if somebody's going to be on your backside, then let it be me. Because like you said, Orlando, earlier, I love you. I'm doing this to teach you. The people out here, they don't care if you live or die.
They will
Now,
put you for real.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because I'm gonna say something in like CPS is gonna be at my door tomorrow,
Don't
But
say it. Don't say it.
no, well, it's just keeping it real though. The thing is, though, whenever I would discipline my kids, especially the youngest one, especially when today, I don't even need to spank the kid. I mean, he's on point. I just tell him again, I'm disappointed with you, dude. Get out of my sight. Boy, that hits him harder than anything. But back in the day, though, when I had to crack down on him, every time I was done, or even after I disciplined him, and get on his case now, we always talk about it later so he understands why what he did was either wrong, inappropriate, why I'm upset about something. And we had an incident here, and it happened, I'm going to say about 2-3 months ago. He had an incident at school, and I was lighting him up. I mean, verbally, just going in on him. Now, mind you, I have a Rottweiler. That's my dog. Okay. My dog was bought and trained to protect this household. My dog does what I say when I say, and he's very good. My dog also stood in front of my son, looked at me, and I could tell in his eyes he was waiting for something to go sideways because he would have turned on me in a second to protect him. And now this becomes like a multifaceted lesson. And I looked at this whole thing as it was unfolding, and I just stopped and I smiled. I'm like, Nathan, let's sit down and talk about what just happened here. So now I can explain to him the dog that protects us. Now I can explain why I'm upset because we're training, because we train our children, we train our animals, we train everything, and how this is all going to make us better people and a better pet. And it was the funniest thing because, at this point, I'm thinking to myself, I thought he was past this. No, it's all training. It's training for him. It's training for Tor. It's training for me. Because even as a parent, there's no manual. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. So if I don't know what I'm doing, this poor kid sure as hell doesn't. So why don't we take this journey together and reason as people?
These are the lessons that this is, again, why family structure is so vitally important, because you learn healthy boundaries between men and women, parents, discipline, and then you learn about character and, again, faith in God. These are the reasons why the left wants to attack the family so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because, again, if we can learn to make first God-fearing young people, to have them loving country, to have them be respectful, then all the other shenanigans that could happen and befall them are highly the likelihood of them happening diminishes greatly. If you can teach discipline and teach them how to respect authority, how to respect their elders, and now don't get me wrong, this does not go into the aspects of these sick individuals who will take advantage of a young person and try to do harm to them, but to train them to have the discernment, to know when someone's not supposed to touch you in your private areas, who are not supposed to be in the bathroom when you use the bathroom, who are not supposed to give you certain things. Do you know this person? Why would you take candy from this person? But those are the things, those fundamental blocks of character building.
Yeah.
These things are vital. So when you drop them off at school, at least the teacher now has something to work with.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the difficult thing now I've complained about some teachers and because some of them are purposely trying to indoctrinate kids, but just teachers in general have a tougher job these days because they're almost having to try to be the parent at the same time they're trying to teach them arithmetic and reading and stuff. And so same with police. The police are having to deal with constant because of the breakdown of the family, it ends up
their mother, father, psychologist, doctor,
yep,
try to be
Yeah. Right.
frenemy,
and police.
and
And
police.
police,
Right.
yeah.
They're gonna
It's
do
like
all
you're
these
supposed to be a
things.
social worker at the same time as being,
The law
enforcing the law. I mean,
And so, this is when and so when the left talks about, well, we need to have more mental health counselors on the street and people who are dealing with, this, that, and the other, and they shouldn't always have to go to, again, this is, to me, is a bigger function and a bigger reflection of just the poor behavior of a society. And now you have, what we have now with this lawlessness, and the only thing that people respect now is force. And we are, you have the Kia boys who say, I'm not scared of no police.
No.
If you're not scared of police, you definitely not scared of just the average person on the street saying, son, why you take my parking spot? Who you talking
Nope.
to? And this is why you have societies now and neighborhoods now saying, I can't talk to young people. He just said he don't even care about the police. Because if it ever got to a bad place, I would say, I'm going to tell your mother. Well, I'm going to tell your father. Or as the old folks, if it got bad, I'm calling the authorities.
Do you remember?
Oh, Lord.
Do you remember there was always that friend? And so growing up, depending on where I lived, most of my friends were either white or most of my friends were either black, really depending on where I lived. But there was a universal truth amongst all of my friends. Their parents, don't make me call you mom and dad. Yes, ma'am. Like they would flex on me so hard. And it was like, I wasn't even trying to do it because, that was an era, we're Gen X. So when somebody called your parents and they say, yeah, your kid was kind of acting out of line, let me tell you what's up, man, there was hell to pay afterwards. And oh no, I learned early on. I don't even that's that like that reference that you don't want. No, I learned that real quick.
Well, I see Darlene wrote in here that Stephanie talked about the Communist Marxist Manifesto breakdown. Is that if you can break down the family, you lose basically structure, you lose order.
The family structure is the cornerstone of America.
Say it again.
The family structure, the nuclear family, is the cornerstone of America.
And I would say it is the cornerstone of any civilized culture.
Yep.
It's how when you have rules and you have boundaries, you have judgment, you have punishment.
Mm-hmm.
These are the basic tenets of any civilized culture that you must have. You must have a ruling document that says this is the order in which we will conduct ourselves. When Moses had the 10 commandments, it said this is the rule from the mouth of God on how we would conduct ourselves here on earth and how we would treat each other. So without those boundaries, man, and this is what you find right now, that anything goes. And I think unfortunately sometimes this is where I kind of fall back from my libertarian friends, like anything can go because we have no sense of we have no sense of boundaries anymore. So anything cannot go. We must have a buffer before it gets to the point of mano y mano. Because and this is where your law and order and common decency, God's laws, man's laws, what God has given us to how we interact with each other. The Bible, the 10 commandments wasn't really for the believer to act amongst the believer. It was really how believers are to act here on earth. If we did these 10 commandments, the likelihood of us having conflict would greatly diminish. If I didn't put anything before God, if I did not steal, kill, or hurt nobody, or covet my neighbor, the likelihood of me having some problems in my marriage, problems with myself on my job would go down. If love thy mother and thy father. If I would love my mom and dad, meaning that I would love their discipline and love their house and love their name, that I would never disrespect their name, the likelihood of me cutting up a fool in the street will greatly diminish. Again, you must have a level of this will bring shame to my family. Now, if you have that, if you have nothing, And we do have people who are sociopaths out here who have nothing.
And you've always had that.
This person who killed these children is a sociopath, pure evil.
Yep.
Pure evil. And I don't know what law would have changed that.
Nothing.
And we're at a crossroads now that we have gotten to the point we're shooting at a funeral. It's not the first funeral I've ever heard of that before.
Nope.
It was one of the first ones that ever got caught on camera. And the shots was ridiculous. They rang out. Just rang out. This is what we are. And this is what is on the ballot. This is what we are. I mean, and this whole concern of who's this and who's not conservative enough, we better get ourselves in line and understand what's at stake here and stop being so, committed to pulling down each other. And clearly we better understand what's at stake here, man.
Mm-hmm.
You have the whole idea of someone said, well, this is, what is it, transgender month or gay pride month?
Yeah, it's Pride Month. Yeah.
Pride month. And
So depending on who you talk to, is either Pride Month or National Dairy Month.
Okay.
I'm not sure where the two interlap, but according to the left, there's intersectionality. So there is that.
Well, then be clear. Juneteenth is coming up, brothers. Just remember that.
Well, damn. It's just all
that too. It's a big month.
It's a big
got
month.
a hot mess here. Yeah.
It's a big month going on. It's a biggie. And so, again, man, if we don't have these core things that we hold and hold fast true, we will have more demise of our just the morality, decency. I question sometimes, man, when I drive through my neighborhood and I see like, this what we doing? We out here like fighting in the middle of the street. Mm-hmm. This how we dressing? This is what we doing right now?
I don't even care about this, how we dressing. It's like, can you conduct yourself like a normal human being?
And then we have the nerve to say, well, we just need more money. We have
or more government.
Or more government. Mm-hmm. We need more people to tell us how to act. We can turn around and say, well, we need $6 million from the RNC because we need to get paid in a city that can barely control itself.
Or in a city that can barely afford itself. So I know people within the Department of Public Works, and I can tell you Milwaukee's broke. Their philosophy is the rest of the state owes them money. The other parts of the state, they ain't got money because they're relying upon grants and Milwaukee. It's an interesting conundrum.
Yeah, I was just reading a comment a few minutes ago that was saying that Darlene was spot on. So how do we fix it? I think that there are some things we can do politically, but it's really, I would say a spiritual and a cultural thing. I think it could start with, like, number one, we do have to be tougher on crime. So if you're dealing with crime, like, okay, there are some things you can do to deter some of that and to deal with crime when it happens, or to try to stop, to remove the incentive, to do it so that, because right now people are getting away with stuff more easily. So there is something to that, but I think, we have to kind of do what we can within our own communities to make a difference and to, I think we do need a spiritual great awakening, because I think that the culture has gone downhill so much, and it's so infected with, there's just, I would say, some things that only God can fix, because it's really, there's such a breakdown. It's so deep. Mm-hmm. I think we can do certain things, but people's hearts need to change. People need to wake up.
I would have to respectfully disagree with that.
Okay.
Which part?
The spiritual part. Like, number one, I'm a big proponent of what Andrew Breitbart said years ago before his passing. Politics is downstream from culture. The leftists control culture, which is why they control politics.
Right.
But on the spiritual side of things, and this is why when I look at certain candidates in this particular race, I will not back them. And I will not back them because when I hear things that I've been anointed from God, or God has told me to do this, well, if any voices you're hearing, it's probably not God, it's psychosis. let- to be 100%, you know. And when I hear people talk about that, to me, it's like, well, are we trying to institute a theocracy here? Or,
So
would you be okay with it if a Muslim said the same thing? And I asked somebody this, and they said no.
So let me clarify. I'm not
Hmm.
saying we intermix politics with. So what I'm saying is, for example, if I have somebody who's gone to my church who struggled with drug addiction for years
Yes.
and years,
Hmm.
she has been helped through our church to overcome that. So that's like a
And that's
separate,
beautiful.
yeah, that's like a separate thing where I'm saying like we have a responsibility as a people, not saying we do it through politics, but that's a
Hmm.
separate thing. So people, who um, are struggling, as they are a single parent, we're there to
Hmm.
help them through that. There's different
100%.
issues where we can help people that way and give them the tools they need to overcome whatever issues they're dealing with. And there's certain things that I think there's practical things, but then I
Yeah.
think there's a healing that can take place when you seek out something deeper and spiritual. And so that's a separate, I mean, that's kind of like you said, culture is, or politics is downstream from culture. And I think if we don't have any sense of boundaries, morality, if there's no absolute truth or a higher thing higher than us, then there's the breakdown of everybody's doing what's right in his own eyes. And
The problem I see though is when we say about a higher power other than us, that eliminates number one, the atheist or the agnostic. That eliminates the person that doesn't share the same theological spiritual view that say you and everyone else does. I think we could take this to a simpler level while letting everyone just do your own spiritual thing and say, you know what? Do you want to be a man? What is a man? You know, a man is somebody who steps up and protects the weak. A man is somebody who protects his family, provides for his family, takes care of his community. We've lost that sense of community. We've lost that sense of being in touch with one another. Most of us don't know our neighbors. I mean, think about how pitiful that is. Somebody who lives less than what, 10, 15 feet from you? You don't, nobody, do you
yeah,
know their names, birth dates, anything else like that? I mean, I'm not saying you need to know their social security number,
no,
you
but
know,
we have
but
in our neighborhood, we have a good, actually, um, I would
mhm,
say there's a lot of neighbors in our neighborhood that check in with each other. And I thankfully live in a
yes,
good neighborhood, and it feels good to have that sense of community with our neighbors and
mhm,
to look out for each other. And, my neighbor next door actually is like family, and we've lived
yeah,
here for 17 years, or yeah, I think it's 17 years. So, you know, just having that sense of community is incredibly important. And the strange thing is you look at the cities that you'd think, oh, people are so close together, you'd think there'd be a sense of community, but it's almost makes it worse because you're
most
kind
people
of,
hate their neighbors.
well, and you're one of how many people. It's like you're lost in a sea of people where it's just
Mhm,
impersonal. And so I do like, that's why I personally, I enjoy living where I live in a smaller town where
yes,
you feel like you know people and you can connect with them more easily, and you're not just like one in a million or whatever, whatever it is. So I
Let
think
me
that is part of it too. I mean, there's a lot of
mhm,
different parts to it. So I think I would say like, because as far as like right and wrong, where do we
yeah,
get right and wrong from? And I do believe that. I mean, I believe the Bible. Now, nobody has to believe it according to what I believe, but there has to be some sense of where do our rights come from. If they come from man, then we're in trouble. If
right.
we're not, if you know what I'm saying, there's got to be something, because otherwise any man could just make up something and say that, well, it's
But I
because I
think the
said so.
framers, but I think the framers had it pretty well put here, because they didn't necessarily state a Christian God or a Muslim God or any other God. They just said nature's God, which I thought is a very interesting, phrase of words. Um, but again, this is where we have to look at, a sense of community as being bigger than our sense of self. Orlando, you were going to say something, sir.
Well, let's look at, and I'm not saying take it another direction, but let's look at what the young Asian young man did this week in Madison by quoting to the school board that in Wisconsin statutes, you should be reading and the pledge and reciting the pledge once a week. If we're not talking about citizenship and love for country,
Mm-hmm.
then we're missing things woefully, really, really bad. If we're not talking about if we're not, we have to stop preaching in a lot of the black churches that God can do anything except for you can't beat that white man.
Right.
So if we're gonna really try to get down to the root cause of this thing, we first have to love God. That God is awesome and we can do all things through Him that strengthen us through Christ Jesus. And then you have to say America is the best country ever. If we're not teaching this thing, man, about the goodness of this country, not reciting our pledge and love for country and love for freedom, that you harbor a level of a hatred for this country, because you're still preaching that the white man is still in control of everything. But I thought God was in control of everything. Which one is it? If we're not doing this thing to say, you know what, our country has problems, but we are the most blessed country around. If we're still trying to say that Christianity is the white man's Christianity and not the Christianity that was found in the Bible back in the day, if we're still trying to make excuses for poor behavior and we cloak it under the gospel of Christ, but you still have quiet conversation on how racist America is,
Right.
you're giving these different messages about what I can do and what I cannot do. Either He's the God of all, or He's the God He can do everything except deal with white racists.
Mm-hmm.
If we're going to talk about accountability, so again, the young man, I don't know if you guys saw this, it was on the internet. I think it's today. He called out the school board of Madison, like, why aren't we reciting the pledge once a week? We're not instilling citizenship or love for country, which means you can do anything in this country, because you'll say, well, I don't care. I don't care about the police. I ain't scared of them. I don't love America because America's never done nothing for me. Who told you that? Mm-hmm. Then we have the nerve to turn around and wonder why religion and faith is not touching the people. We have the nerve to feel like why the schools can't do nothing. When you teach CRT and the spinoffs and the byproducts of that, don't be surprised that the kids don't come. And you got every image in this country, how courageous this country is, how corrupt this country is, how no good this country is, how it stole land, how it did this and raped and you say all these things, and then you wonder why kids don't want to come to school. You wonder why kids don't want to come to church, Pastor. I thought Jesus can do everything, but you still telling me I gotta be twice as good as the white boy.
Right. The problem is, though, and I think this goes to social norms and mores. And what I mean by that is that if you go back, even say into the 90s and beyond that, we had a number of social norms and mores. You didn't make out with whoever you were with in public, gay, straight, whatever.
You didn't hold hands.
Well, you might have held hands, but you didn't really go, you weren't doing anything crazier than that. There was a level of respect for law enforcement, unless you were, hardcore criminal. There was, we all believed in the goodness of America. We all believed in the fact that, here we are trying to make a best life for ourselves. I remember that there was an ad campaign in the late 80s from MTV, and MTV, very leftist, and their whole thing was judge a person by the content of the character, not the color of their skin. And we achieved that in the 90s, which is really what blows my mind. We regressed so much in that time frame. And the social norms and mores seem to have really broken apart because we've become so multicultural that culture is actually an artificial culture. It's not Black culture. It is not Hispanic culture, Asian culture. It is subcultures beyond that. The thug life culture, the whatever type of gang culture here, the redneck culture, the goth culture, whatever, and neither shall intertwine, which is really frustrating because we had achieved something in the 90s and early 2000s that our parents had literally fought for, that our grandparents had suffered, so that we could have that better life, and we achieved it. It was here, and we threw it all aside because somebody came along and said, "You know what, Orlando? Because you're the darkest person here. Clearly, you must be oppressed, and you're probably oppressed by Stephanie because you know what? She's a white girl, red hair. I mean, she's genetic mutation, so clearly there's a problem there, right?
Yeah.
If she has green eyes, then damn, you really oppressed." Because it got so ridiculous now. So now you got to get other people riled up about something that wasn't even true to begin with.
That's
And when we
because they're
think back
dividing us.
educationally, we think back at our education system. The founding of our public education system was literally to do just what Orlando was talking about: create productive, educated, up to the 8th grade, I think it was, citizens, patriotic. And it was around the turn of the Industrial Revolution is when we ended up getting the, hey, let's create the factory worker. Because a lot of businesses, they wanted that person who's going to sit there on the line and punch rivets all day, 8 hours, and do your job, hit the showers, go home, and then come back and do it again tomorrow. Repetitive. I wouldn't have lasted during that era. So how do we get to a place now in present 2022, 2023, where our social norms and mores can once again be shared values and norms? I don't know if we can do that now because we are so fractured, so bifurcated. I just don't see how it happens at this point.
I don't think we're really going back to. We're not going back to the 1950s or whatever. I mean,
June
we're
Cleaver.
at a point where I don't think we reverse the entire culture. I think we do what we can to push back enough to have the majority of people. I mean, there was a time where it was very, very small minority that believed some whacked out stuff. I mean, there was a kind of common consensus about some things, like a man is a man, a woman is a woman, you know. And so,
Go get me banned on YouTube for that one.
oh boy, yeah. Well, I mean, like I said before, we were being totally politically incorrect, which was great because we were just speaking the truth. But
Yes, ma'am.
I think sometimes, it's just a matter of understanding that we have to do what we can to stand up before it gets past a point of no return because again, I think there's a loud minority and they've made people afraid to speak opposite or different from what that loud minority is saying, so that
their numbers are
Democrats,
not as big as they like to think that it is. No,
yeah,
I think you're absolutely 100% right.
yeah, and I think that that the challenge is because they use fear to control people. So you have all these woke corporations pushing certain things where if you speak out against certain things, I mean, you could be an employee or you could even be the head of something and they'll demand you step down because you said something that was contrary. But they're using their the power, any power that they do have to instill fear in people, where I don't think it's not the vast majority of people who believe certain things that are crazy. It's a smaller minority that is trying to control the narrative enough where people will fall in line and not push back enough. So I think the more people that believe sane things, if we band together to push back on those things, and I mean that's where the strength is. I think is in together we say no, we're not going to accept that or go along with it. There's power in numbers and in all together pushing back against certain things. And that starts in our schools too. I mean, that starts locally. That's the other thing. We've talked about local here before, in our local governments, in our schools, in our communities. So it really does, I think, start at a very local level and in our neighborhoods and all of that. And it's certainly not a simple, easy thing, but we have to start somewhere and we have to understand that it's a multifaceted approach to getting some of our culture back, at least some of it.
Well, and it didn't stop, and it didn't happen overnight, and it won't be solved overnight. And when we start talking about culture too, this is where to create shared values, we have to create culture. And what is culture? It is music, it is literature, it's books, it's all kinds of wonderful things like that. And as conservatives, we need to start creating culture. And if the left tries to shut us down, then we create our own culture. Orlando, I apologize. I think I might have cut you off there.
My friend. I see that Christine has some questions in there. A lot of these things, Christine, were said to a lot of minorities doing from our grandparents who lived during a very openly racist time in our country. But it wasn't always true. That we're learning now that I didn't have to be twice as smart as the white dude. I just needed to apply myself.
I remember being told the same thing.
Right. So we were taught these things in a time in which racism was very open, but not necessarily practiced across the board. And we had a lot of these things that came up from the South. So there was racism down in those Democratic ran states. These were the things that the old black man and the old black woman was taught, and they instilled up in us and their offspring and their children how you had to work harder, because these were the byproducts of the black codes, the Jim Crow laws, and stuff like that. And so that's that teaching. The sad thing about it is that those teachings never stopped once we did make the strides, and Republican and conservatives continued to fight even through the 60s to make these laws and change these laws. The culture, here we go again, politics downstream from culture. The culture didn't change in those black communities. They still were taught that we have to be better, we have to do this. Because those opportunities are passing us by. I believe we can make some changes for the better, and it starts for me systematically, which is one of the reasons why I'm running for office, is to have a systematic approach to how to get things back in place. One of the biggest things I have to say, quite honestly, I understand that voter integrity is huge, but take that aside. I think you got to have a booming economy locally. We got to get people working. I don't think education, and I was telling someone this the other day, that education alone is an investment. An investment, as we know, we don't see the reward of investments right away.
Nope.
We must invest. We must have a right now economy that gets jobs in these cities that are good paying opportunities. And you cannot do that until you first safeguard the streets. That means this election has to happen, and you have to have a governor that will give the attorney general the ability to prosecute cases and take these cases out of Milwaukee County, along with firing the DAs. I wish they could fire the judges, and I wish they could appoint the judges. Then you wouldn't necessarily have to have special prosecutorial abilities of the attorney general. But if there is a constitutional way to fire those judges and appoint judges by the governor, I don't care if it is only for a year and a half, and then the election will come again. And after the election, they still elect another leftist, fire him right behind him and appoint another for the entire term. Because we have to get these things for the immediate wins. We have to do this because, again, education is a long-term proposition. We have to get these parents and these individuals hope again, because, again, let's also be clear what we're doing here. We're cleaning up leftist, progressive, Marxist philosophies. We're asking conservatives to come in now and clean up this mess. And that's what we are. We got to come in and clean the mess up.
Well, not only do we have to clean the mess up, but I think we also have to make sure that we are instituting something new, something better, or if we're rehashing something like culture, we have to make sure that culture is, and let's be realistic about this too. If a liberal makes a movie and it's like a banger movie, I can't blame you for controlling culture and your messaging in it. You put out a bomb movie. Of course, people are going to want to be down with that. Conservatives need to do the same thing. Ben Shapiro, Daily Wire, they figured it out. Run, hide, fight. You
Yep,
know,
I
several other
watched that.
movies they got. And what's the new documentary they got out now? What is a
What is a
woman?
woman?
You know, I mean, it's off the
Mhm.
hook right now from what I'm
Yep.
understanding. So I will watch, by the way, let me say for full disclosure, I have not watched 2000 Mules. I have no plans to watch 2000 Mules. Why? Dinesh D'Souza, if this truly is about election integrity, everything else, he shouldn't be charging anything. But that's just my thoughts. What is a woman? I think has more impact culturally, societally. I said it. I said what I said. Boom.
Well,
Hey,
that I did see the preview for that What is a Woman movie. I think just today actually I saw it,
Mhm.
and I was like, wow, that looks it's incredibly interesting. It's alarming when you do see some of these people trying to make the case that I mean, it's so twisted and backwards that
I
they
identify as a woman. What is a woman? A woman is what I feel.
yeah, and they can't define they can
Yeah.
never define what that means. Well, what do you feel? Like what do you mean when you say I feel like this? So it's certainly we need people to do stuff like that. We need documentaries like that. We need to challenge these cultural, you know, extremes that have gone off the rails and are not I mean, it's just insane what is going on in our society today with some of this stuff. So
Well,
I
I identify as something different, right?
what do you identify as?
I have this like Batman complex
Okay.
because apparently, so my son has a lot of friends that like hanging out at our house, which is cool because I can control everything, and then like I start cooking for everybody, and they like it because there's either pizzas or burgers, and it's like it's off the hook, right? And I got a ton of video games for them, and it's whatever. So I identify as Bruce Wayne. I'm trans financial. I like to. I'm still like working, but I identify as being a playboy billionaire
You could
vigilante
apply that to
superhero.
anything. I mean, you could
That's my
use that
point.
logic for anything. Yeah, you could. I mean, whatever I feel is reality when it's totally not. I mean, think about how many times our feelings have deceived us on things. We've all been there where we thought something, we felt something, and then we were wrong. I mean, to base things on feelings is the most foolish thing. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm not saying feelings are, I mean, sometimes feelings are legit, but obviously we can't base things all only on feelings.
When you base a judgment on feelings, you set yourself up for failure. When you have feelings tempered with wisdom, you have the formula for success.
well, these are all.
Orlando just got a shout out right here. This is
Thank you,
huge. This is
Chris.
big energy right here.
I'm humbled, and I'm humbled because of not only you, Chris, but also the two great panelists that are really great Americans and who are very wise themselves. That
He's
I'm
talking
blessed to
about you,
share this.
Stephanie, twice. He's not talking about me.
I don't know about that.
So
I'd say you're pretty good at.
I
You got a
think
lot of.
I
Okay.
think a friend
I'm
of
still
mine
eating popcorn.
said that there's a must see movie right now, and it's called Top Gun.
I've heard. I see people posting about it all over. I
They
think I'm gonna
saying
have
this
to
is
go
one
see
of those
that.
America First movies that we need right now to feel good, to feel patriotic about our country again.
Hmm.
And I watched, so right now on Netflix, ironically, they have the original Top Gun, which, some of you all may know that I tried to be part of the Air Force Academy and didn't get quite in there. I wanted to be a
Kenny
pilot.
Loggins.
I wanted to be a pilot. I saw Top Gun and I said, I want to be a pilot. But no, I think, man, we definitely have the potential to make these changes incrementally. If we get one step at a time with this election. And this is why the tones of the election has to change. I know that David King has a lot of concerns. I know that there are other campaigns that have a lot of concerns. But when we spend more time tearing each other down for the sake of I'm trying to show someone's transparency or whatever, and it comes off as negative, and he had a real concern that I was at a press release or press conference
Oh
with
yeah.
Playfish about the shootings that happened near Pfizer Arena or the Deer
The
District.
Deer District. Yeah.
And my response to David is this simply, David, if you want to do a press conference on 3rd and Buffalo, invite me and I'll come to that one too, because this is my city. I don't care where you had the doggone press conference, or what shooting you had. The question again, these are the petty things.
Yeah.
These are the minor things. And we get so many people who said, I'm concerned about the 4 generations. That's David, and I'm like, well, David, we cannot talk about what the Democratic Party and the Republican Party uses black people. I'm like, this is so counterproductive. It's so counterproductive of where we need to be taken serious as serious candidates, as serious people for serious times. We're I know people were talking about the endorsement today or yesterday of Donald Trump, and I get it. It's a big thing and it's important.
Yep.
But to tear people down because they didn't get the endorsement or the state party and the people, I support the state party endorsement and I'm blessed to have it. But I can tell you, man, there were some things I've seen at the convention that I was not proud of.
No.
We're losing sight of our culture and our country. We're bickering over, well, who is truly the leader that we're looking for, and who is truly. They all have great skills.
They really do.
And I just take a stand against negative campaigning. I just do. I think it's just so inappropriate. It's unbecoming. For some who consider themselves to be clergy, that's another level of criticism and being scrutinized that we should be conscious of. We call ourselves Christians. We call ourselves constitutionalists. And the Constitution was written so greatly that even if you were a non-believer, you had a set of rules in which you also had to abide.
And there's a way to handle disagreements where it's not like we're not allowed to disagree or say, well, I think that this candidate has a better stance on this issue, or I'm not sure about this one thing with this candidate. I'd like to know more about it. I kind of would like clarity. I think it's okay to point those things out. So that's I don't, and I'm assuming Orlando that you would agree with that. Yeah, but it's the viciousness or the personal, it's just the tone that comes with it, or the what are the motives, and I think sometimes people can get wrapped up in the political gamesmanship of trying to get the upper hand or whatever. And I just think, just be sincere. I mean, again, I've had concerns about different candidates, and I'll bring it up in a way that is, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm not trashing them. I'm just asking, hey, or I'll just point out, I don't agree with how they're handling this or that.
Yeah.
But you don't have to be nasty about it or try to tear them down as a person. And
so where's the inspiration? Where's the inspiration for us to be better than what we are right now? Where is the inspiration that deeps and taps into the inner man and says, you know what, I can do better and I want to do better. That's not what you can do for your country, but what can you do for your country?
Right. And that was JFK.
Not if what you can do, what your country can do for you.
It's not what you can do. It's not what your country can do for you. It's what you can do for your country.
Where is that inspiration right now? Where is the inspiration asking, what can you do for your country? Not what your country can do for you.
Right.
I don't hear that tone enough. And it's sad where we are as conservatives who love our country. Give me inspiration.
Here.
Give me something to aspire in a time of muck and mire. Give me hope. Give me a direction. Give me determination. Inspire me to be more than what I am today. I'm here. I'm sorry.
Appreciate it.
And that's what I'm saying. Oh, my brother, testify.
You were testifying there, brother.
Now, let me drop this here because y'all alluded to something, and I'm gonna take it 3 steps further. And we got about 13 minutes, so I'm going to try to be quick about this here. I'm looking at all 5 gubernatorial candidates. I've met 4 of the 5. I'm looking forward to meeting the 5th. I like them all. When I look at them all, they're all conservatives. There's no question about this to me. But when I look at who is the person who gives a damn the most about the people of the state of Wisconsin to me right now. And the jury will be out until probably August 9th, right before I vote. But right now, at this moment in time, Rebecca Clayfish, hands down, is the person that should get the nod here. Rebecca Clayfish is the one who should do that. Now, does it sound like I'm doing an endorsement? You take it for what it is. I don't care. What are you going to do? Get mad at me? Cancel me? I can't be canceled, and I don't care if you're mad at me. My point is, when I look at all these gubernatorial candidates, I need the individual who's going to be the most inspiring person, who's to be the person who cares most about the state people of the state of Wisconsin, the person who's going to motivate folks here. I need somebody who's long-term and invested that way, and when I think about, just the overall picture of what we're trying to do here, to me, it's not a question of who I like better, who's going to crack down the hardest, who's most pragmatic and most electable at the end of the day. What do you guys got on that?
Yeah, so I mean, I think that all of those things come into play, because I think that there's, because you mentioned Tim Rantham before, and so however people feel about him, sometimes there's that question of, okay, can he get support from the average person who's maybe not as focused on, I mean, his main issue is election integrity, obviously.
Right.
So, but he's got to be able to get the average person who's not plugged into that, and he's got to be able to speak.
Well, you can't hit them over the head with it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
When he goes the way that he's doing right now, people are like, "Yo, you need to stop. That's a rabbit hole I can't go down."
Well, and you have to, I mean, you have to be able to relate to the average Wisconsinite and speak to things that matter to a larger group of people. And that doesn't mean you can't focus on election integrity at all, obviously. I'm not saying that. It's just you have to be able to reach people with, more of a message that can reach the most people in Wisconsin that are, you can get them on board and excited about it. So, and also just, and you can have deep, it's always good, of course, to have deep, strong support among your supporters where they're energized, and that can certainly help.
And that's and I think that's where the Trump endorsement came in, because when you look at who was the person that Trump endorsed that I'm most identified with, that was electable.
Sure.
That was pretty much, hands down Tim Michaels. That's who the difference maker was, who he identifies most with.
Yeah.
Look at Orlando over here.
Orlando, what are you doing?
Can you hear me right now?
Oh my goodness, yes.
I can hear you. I can hear you. Can you hear it? I can hear it.
No, I agree.
Orlando was. He called me up the other day, by the way. He's like, I look for a good microphone, a good megaphone. I'm like, megaphone. I need that CB thing. And he's got it. And I'm like, I can't wait to see this.
We're ready. We're ready for the Pancake Garys. No, I agree. I think we're looking for inspiration, man, in this time of desperation. And I think that the candidates have to step up. I think that was something that I tried to always instill in my campaign, that we stay positive. We try to inspire, man. It's easy to tear down, but I need some inspiration. And I think most people need inspiration too. In order for us to have the turnout we need to push back this leftist agenda, we need people who inspire us, man. And not just take my anger, but move my anger into passion, and move my passion into action, and move my action into wins. So
tell me you care.
Orlando is a happy warrior.
Oh.
Orlando Owens is the Andrew Breitbart of Wisconsin. I said it because you know what? Breitbart really was. That's how they talked about him, the happy warrior.
Yep, absolutely.
I'm mad. I ain't gonna lie. I'll about, hit me, I hit back. Orlando's happy. I ain't gonna lie. I wish I was as happy as Orlando.
Well, he's rubbing off on you maybe a little bit. You hang around
A
him long
little
enough.
bit, he does have that effect. That's true.
Yeah. Well,
He does. He lights up a room.
I think we
Well, I
have.
often say he doesn't give a speech. It's an experience.
That's good.
To God be the glory, man.
Amen.
But I am looking for inspiration, man. I am looking for someone who can not just inspire me, but inspire the masses, man. Who can connect by just who can do that, and I struggle with some campaigns. I struggle with some of just the viciousness that I see, because we also have to remember, Edmund, you and I think Steph, we talk about this a lot, that outside of the Patriot groups and the GOP groups, there's a huge mass of people who don't follow this stuff like this at all, and who may not even be all that concerned about some of the issues that we're going to the mat over, and we're missing an opportunity. And I think that's where we are now, in that this election has not only turned to the primary voter, but I think we're already in general election mode.
Yes, we are.
As far
Tim
as
and Rebecca are doing it.
I'm sorry. I'll say my piece. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say Tim and Rebecca, or Tim Michaels and Rebecca Clayfish, they're running in general mode. Is this accurate? I thought he only had 30.
I think it's 30,000, which is still a lot, but it was.
Well, he doubled. He doubled Baldwin's record.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure, because the post was. I'm pretty sure he said 30,000.
Orlando, you told me that, right? That's double Baldwin. What she had.
I think she had about between 14 to 17, and so I think Ron turned in 30,000.
Yeah. Awesome.
Go ahead and challenge Ron. Go ahead.
And so again, the challenge that Justin is talking about, I don't know where it's coming from. I'm glad candidates have gotten more. This is why it was so important. We had a really big field of lieutenant governor candidates, and now I hope that they all can maintain this challenge. If you're at the 2,100, 2,300, this is why you had to get so many more, because now I guess they're going to challenge whoever this group is, or the Democrat Party is going to challenge everybody's, and they're going to look at those campaigns who are close to 2,000, who are close to the bare minimum, and this is part of that, that realization of like how healthy is a really, really big field. In this case, when the lieutenant governors all struggle to get signatures, they all struggle to get them.
Right.
And now I
think some struggle more than others.
You're right. And they didn't have the resources, as far as, because there's so many, and all of them talking to the same people for give me $1, give me $15. It was only so many volunteers to go around. And now just due to attrition, you have campaigns who may be getting challenged right now who may not make it through the challenge phase.
Oh, this is going to be entertaining. I keep telling people, this is my bowl of popcorn, and here's what's left. Right in here. And there's the Kool-Aid. This election season is just going to be lit. That's all I know. It's going to be off the hook. It's going to be straight fire, and it's going to be amazing. Guys, we got 4.5 minutes here. So we're going to do some sign-offs here. Stephanie, I'm going to give it to you first. Social media, where we can find you, how we can help you out in Door County. You're a Door County Republican Party chair.
Yeah.
And before I let you take it, I'm going to tell you, whatever you need, if it's within my ability to help you, you ask me and it'll be done.
Awesome. Well, I'll have to keep that in mind if I want your help at any events coming up.
Yes, ma'am.
Which I don't have anything specifically planned yet, but I'll keep that in mind.
Summer's going to be lit. That's all I know.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, it'll be a busy summer for sure. So, we do for our county party, besides just my personal stuff, we do have a website. If you type in www.doorcountygop.com, that's our website if you want to get involved. Probably most people on here are not in Door County directly, but we have a Facebook page as well, and I try to post a lot of stuff that's relevant, that's going on each day, that just to update people what's going on. And if you're friends with me on Facebook, then I do some Facebook lives at times, and just I try to post all sorts of stuff. But yeah, I just try to keep a presence and just be getting the truth out there, putting the truth out there, and having discussions with people, and just trying to get people to think for themselves. So I think we all, the other thing is too, before I end, it's important to, and I've mentioned this before, to find some humor in some things, and to laugh, and to have some fun with some stuff. So I actually enjoy doing these things because I think it's fun. I think it's fun to have these conversations, and we can joke around and stuff, because you need some comic relief from all that's going on right now. So
Laugh or cry.
Or laugh so hard you cry, maybe. That's always good. Make your tummy hurt. So I think that it's even stuff like this where we're communicating with people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thanks for putting that up there. It's important to be there for one another and encourage one another and have these discussions, and just network with other people, because it feels like it's like a family. It's like we need each other to get through this period of time. It's difficult right now. So yeah, anyways, I guess that's all I really have to say. I'm very tired.
I know. Well, we're going to cut you so you can get some rest here. So Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate it so much you joining in here. Phenomenal conversation, as I always say. You elevated. Orlando.
Guys.
Stephanie, before you go,
yeah.
I don't know if Christine is talking to you about the link.
No, I had a typo in there.
Got it. Okay.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
We got a minute and a half, Orlando. I'm gonna give you a minute with this.
Man, I don't need that long. Hey, man, I need you guys' help. We are now on the ballot. 3,900 signatures we turned in. I'm praying that they will all be, counted for and accepted. My website is Orlando4wi.com. Orlando forwi.com. We need volunteers because now we are in the dairy breakfast season, and so I need volunteers throughout the state of Wisconsin, wherever county you in, to please reach out to me, because I cannot possibly attend all these dairy breakfasts during Dairy Month. And so I need your help to either, attend for me, to pass out literature, just to say, hey, I just want to make a shout out to Orlando Owens. He couldn't make it today. I need your help, guys. So I've been a begging man on this campaign trail. And let me also beg for this. I need some donations, you all, because our campaign fund is about to go through some changes, because we just got we're proofing. We have
15 seconds before we
yard signs. We're proving yard signs. So Ed, go ahead.
All right. Thank you guys. Orlando Owens, Stephanie Suchek. We got 5 seconds. We're out. Appreciate it. Good night. God bless you. God bless Wisconsin. Thank you. Hold tight.